This week's episode is sponsored by the Brisbane Marathon Festival. Run the Story Bridge without a car in sight. In its 30th year, the Brisbane Marathon Festival has given you and every runner a reason to celebrate with us. Whether you plan on tackling the Brisbane Marathon, half marathon, 10k, 5k or 2k, celebrate the 30th annual Brisbane Marathon Festival in style on an all-new course, taking in the very best of the Brisbane city from the start to the finish on Sunday the 5th of June 2022. Enter now with more information at brisbanemarathon.com.au.
Child, that your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place? Under the cover of my skin.
Welcome to episode number 233 of the Inside Running Podcast. Thank you for joining us for another week. Coming to you a day late this week, so appreciate you guys still listening to us, even though we're a bit later than usual. Big show coming at you. Boston Marathon happened this morning, so I'll be talking about all that. Got a listener question, Moose on the Loose, purchase of the week possibly, even a bit of training talk, and the and a great start, fellas, whoever that is, and an Olli Hoare interview coming to you at the very end. Welcome to my co-host up in Canberra. Was that you pouring a drink there, Croker?
It wasn't me.
Well, wasn't you?
Could you hear that?
I could hear someone pouring a drink and someone's smoke alarm going off.
I put my laptop on the oven and it was still on, so it was beeping at me.
Brady, we should probably mention why we're a day late, and that's because you are the Herb Hedemann champion and weren't available last night. Too busy signing autographs, doing interviews. Yep.
Putting kids to bed, Brad. It was a very low-key celebration. I had two beers on the drive home from Bendigo as Carly was driving, and then straight back into dad mode. So I'm hoping you boys are having a few beers tonight. I might have a few while I'm recording, so I was pretty happy to hear someone pouring a drink before. Moose, was that alcoholic?
Yeah.
Congrats, mate. You look very strong.
Thank you, Brad. I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit in the episode, but nice to get another stall sash and appreciate your comments.
Just a shame though that it coincides with the annual Moose on the Loose of pro running. I think every year, the week after Easter, it's always Moose on the Loose. Oh, pro running.
Yeah.
So don't do that this year, Moose.
There were some robust discussions. He's just actually watched it. We're recording 10 minutes late because he wanted to actually watch the race, so he's got it fresh in his mind.
Yeah, and it was quite good to watch. It was like watching a man run against children. Except the man was given a 150-metre head start. 130
metres head start, but thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah. No, you're looking you're looking real weathered, and I like that in a runner. It just shows you're spending a lot of time out in the elements.
What do you mean weathered?
Well, like old.
I thought he looked quite smooth, Moose.
Really? No,
I was speed.
Oh no! As he was running, that was fine. I mean, in the interview afterwards, just the close up, you're just seeing all the
couple
two
of wrinkles.
Kids.
Yeah,
doesn't work much though. So I'm not sure where the real stress is coming from.
Nah, a couple of rough nights sleep. Those 2 nights leading in, I reckon I had about 8 hours combined for the 2 nights leading in with kid dramas. But anyway.
Spoke well though.
Oh, thank you.
Well.
They gave us some good plugs on the podcast too, didn't they? Live TV. Tamsin, Dave Colbert, Richo. They're all the big dogs in Australian media giving us a shout out, so I appreciate that. We'll talk about that a bit more at the end of my running week. But Julian, how are you going down Anglesea? You going all good?
Yes, good. Just working and buying bike parts.
Easter would be good for sales, wouldn't it?
Well, it's good for work. A lot of work. A lot of work normally means you get a return on your investment, doesn't it?
It does.
We had a few stall visitors come through. I mean, it shows that there are it attracts a a crowd. We had people that had travelled interstate to come to Stawell just to spectate, and they dropped through the store, and yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did they? Just to say, on the way to Geelong. Is Geelong on the way to Stawell from Adelaide or something?
Geelong's probably the place that you want to stay at. Like if you go to Stawell and have a day either side or something, you stay down the coast. We also had the surfing on the Rip Curl Pro, and had some visitors for that come through too. So it was good weekend in Geelong.
That's good. How are you? You running at all? Still nothing on Strava?
Not running, but I'm cycling. Doing mountain biking. That's actually been fun. I'm getting my heart rate up on these rides. I'm not very fit, but the mountain biking, it's quite difficult when you ride around here. There's a lot of steep, sharp hills, and they're pretty technical, so a lot of effort and intensity involved in climbing the hill. I'm in the gym a bit, yeah, but I went and saw a sports doc last week, the fella Anthony Hipsley who's helped me in the past before, and we chatted throughout the scan results and the pathway forward, and when my return to run, we're treating it as bone stress injury, which it is, and I've only had probably 4 to 5 weeks off now, so I reckon 1 to 2 weeks before I start picking it up again, jogging, and then just managing load a lot better than what I was, knowing that I can fall over the cliff when I do too much, which I didn't really know before I got after the surgery. This was the first flare-up, but it also was a really bad flare-up. It would have been nice to kind of get a few warning signs before I really cooked it, but that's a warning sign now. It's a strong one for the future. I just got to be a bit more careful with my loading. So is it stressy? Is that what you're saying? In the knee? Well, it's bruising of the bone, and that's a result of no cartilage between my kneecap and my femur, and the patella. Like the gliding is creating like almost bone-on-bone friction, which creates bone bruising. So
slow to heal bone bruising.
Yeah, it is. You can't rush it. There's nothing you can do for it, really. It's just it's like a bone stress injury. That's how you treat it. Well, and then that's time and rest. So,
but does that mean though, Moose, because you got no cartilage there, it's just going to keep coming back?
Well, if you do too much, it is. And at the moment, one of the theories is that it's gliding very lateral because my VMO is so weak, and so the patella tendon is kind of pulling the patella out of the groove to a degree, out of the best part of the knee, the knee groove. So the VMO, as it gets stronger, will pull it a little more medial and create a better, a better glide with less out of the bone-on-bone section with more cartilage there.
Yeah.
Big theory, but we're working on it.
Okay. Give us some other things that have been happening in your life for the week. So you've been riding a bit?
Yeah, rode a bit. Pia, she's getting bigger. That's been fun. She's getting a bit of personality about her.
She sleep through the night yet?
Yeah. She's been doing that since I reckon maybe 6 weeks. She's a gun.
6 weeks?
She is a gun, I'm telling you.
That's a snoo right there, Croaks.
You boys were writing it off, but I tell you what, we just sold it to Ali, actually, and she's been hearing all our stories of the dream baby.
Cost plus 10%?
It's an investment, Croaks. What kind of businessman doesn't... she was in the gym with me yesterday, actually doing a bit of physio review on my workout. So, she's kicking along in her pregnancy, and we had what did we do this week? I rode on the long run with the fellas. So that was Sunday morning, 30K. Boys are starting to pick it up for Gold Coast, so a lot more time out on the trails. Just busy in the store. It's been really good. Like, it's been pumping in the store. So that's just been taking up a lot of my energy. That and searching for bike stuff on the internet. Actually, I take a few detours home via the bike shops. I'm obsessed with it. And I just want my bike to look the best. I don't want to have the best looking bike on the trails. That's my goal.
I'm scared he's going to become a cyclist here, Croaks.
He just loves spending cash.
No, I'll just run out of money. I'll run out of money before I could become a good cyclist. Because
duathlon. There it is.
I can't run though.
Well, you will be able to at some point.
Hopefully, yeah. It's been fine. Like when you know you've got a time frame on something, it's fine. So knowing that I've got the bone stress and I've got a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks like left, I just find my zone of cycle for however long. Gives you a sore lower back, the cycling though. Shit, really, like that position you're in. Yeah. Bree and I went out for a cool ride on Friday, actually. We went and rode first no pier date, and we went for a bike ride, and it was like out the back of Anglesea. We rode out to Bamborough, which is like a small rural town, just through the Otways. And yeah, we went a bit far on the way back. Like Bree was cooked, and yeah, it's all fun and games until you get to the turnaround point and you realise you've got a sore back and your legs are tired and you've run out of energy and you've got no water. And then it's like a really tough hour back.
Oh, well, a couple more weeks and then see how things are progressing at your end.
Yeah, yep. I'm good down here. I just like watching you win, Brady. Watching your success, that keeps me going.
Sure it does. I'm waiting for smart ass shit in about 10 minutes time when I start talking about it. So anyway, has been doing a bit of running, 153k the last week, his biggest week in 12 months, I think.
Oh boy.
He's about 10 days out from his big race, the Sydney 10k. They've released the elite field and his name was on it. Brad Croker, talk us through this week. Getting it right at the right time, yeah?
Brady. Yeah, I've had another pretty good week. The weather's been awesome. I know we spoke about it a few weeks back that this is the best time of year, but then when we spoke about that, the weather was real shit for the next week. But this last week was just awesome. It was like cool mornings, no wind. Monday got out for an hour. 412s, listened to the Olli Hoare interview that you did, Brady. So well done.
He's good, isn't he, Olli Hoare?
Yeah, pretty open, honest. It was enjoyable. So made the hour go by pretty quick. So that was Monday. Tuesday, just treadmill in the morning for 35 minutes and then out to the track that night for 10 by a K off about a minute. I did it with two other guys and they were running, like they wanted to start more like 320s and I'm like, it's probably getting a bit like slow. Like I just don't feel like there's much point to that. So I was actually giving them sort of a head start, about 10 seconds, and I'd sort of catch them at various points. And but it was like really good session. I actually wore the Alpha Flies for the second time ever. It's been basically a year since I've last wore them. Because my next percent, I think, had done, like I can't race in those anymore. They've done too many Ks. And so I just wanted to see whether the Alpha Flies felt good to race Sydney 10, and they did. So that'll be my race shoe. And, yeah, so I think I averaged like 3:08s for the whole session. Slowest was like 3:15. Fastest was 3 minutes. Recoveries were anywhere between a minute and sort of 70 seconds. So I was really, really happy with this session. Like it didn't feel like uncomfortable. Like none of the reps felt uncomfortable. Could have definitely done a couple more. And I've just been really happy with the progression. Like when I first did my first session back after COVID and my calf was 6 by a K and my heart rate was through the roof running 330s. And then it went like, I think 318 or 315 average maybe, and then 312 average, and then 308 average. So I was really happy with how that session felt, especially for the volume. I think for the last 5, I averaged about 305s, which, back in the day, I used to just do 6 and, I'd probably run maybe average 3-minute Ks. So I think the strength's definitely starting to come back. So I was happy with that. Then Wednesday morning, got out for my 90 minutes and listened to the Jeff Risley interview. So that was another really enjoyable listen and made 90 minutes go by so quick. So I actually started the interview a bit before the run and then listened to it on the way home just to fit it all in. So that was 21.7k, 409s. Thursday was my sort of 45 minutes and strides day, so 413s. And then I was umming and ahhing all week about going and doing like an all-out mulligans loop, and I don't know, I just felt like I've been training really smart, and I'm just like why sort of push the envelope? So I was going to do it on the Friday, and then I sort of went, nah, I'll just jog, or maybe I'll do it Saturday. So Friday I ended up just doing an hour at 4:10, and then did a run on the treadmill in the afternoon, just 35 minutes. And then it got to Saturday, and I'm like, nah, stuff it. I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing. It's been working really well. So I jumped back on the treadmill and did 6 by 6 minutes off 1 minute rest. And this was another little progression from what I've been doing. So I don't know when it was, like 8 weeks ago, when I first started doing these treadmill sessions. I think I did 4 of them at like 17K an hour, or like 3:30s. And now I'm up to doing 6 of them at 3:20s off a minute rest. So that was another pretty enjoyable session. Heart rate wasn't, super high, sort of low 160s it's generally sort of sitting at. That afternoon went out to Mulligan's for a lap, 4:15s for 30 odd minutes, and then 2 hours again on Sunday. So I started out at Mulligan's, and then on the way back, I decided to leave the car at Mulligan's and run home. Sometimes when you're doing a run and you get close to being back at the car, and then you do a loop from there for another 30 odd minutes, it's mentally a bit tough sometimes. So I decided just to leave the car there, because we're heading out to Viv's parents' place for lunch. So it was on the way anyway. So I then just decided to run home. So 2 hours, 4:07s for 153K week. So look, body's feeling good. I think my fitness is pretty good. In terms of, I don't know where my fitness is actually at, but since 2018, this is the best I've felt like I've been moving in that whole time. I've had a couple of decent results in the last 3 years, or patches where I've got myself fit, but I haven't felt good running. Whereas I feel like my fitness is pretty good, but I'm actually moving better than I was, in the last 3 years. So that's encouraging.
It's a good week. 2 hours at 4:07, 90 minutes at 4:09s or whatever it was. 2 good workouts. Is he? And 150K total. If you run 29:45, I wouldn't be surprised. But if you also run 31 dead, I wouldn't be surprised. Just because I'm not sure where you are actually at.
Yeah,
the intensity is going to get you. I think that's what's going to get you.
Yeah, and that's why I probably should have done maybe a hard effort beforehand. I was chatting to Ben Wisby, who was coaching me before, and he suggested a 3 to 5K sort of time trial, which ideally would have been late last week. But I'm also happy to go into this as I actually think I ran 1 3-minute K during that 10 by a K session, and it didn't feel super quick. And I feel like my strength, I don't think I'll run 30 minutes. I personally think I'll be between 30:30 and 31:30, in that sort of range, depending on the conditions. And, I think for me, I just need to make sure I don't cook it early, because as you said, I just haven't done a lot of the quicker stuff. But then, I went and did hills tonight, and I did hills about a month ago, and I definitely felt stronger again. And I feel like that sort of gives you a bit of speed and power anyway. So I don't know where I'm at, but regardless of the result, I'm definitely not going to change the way that I've been training, because it's enjoyable. And I've seen progression in my fitness has definitely improved over the space of 6 weeks or 8 weeks, however long it's been. And I wouldn't say that I've absolutely nailed myself on any of the sessions. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And hopefully if Sydney 10 goes well, what I plan to do is try and race maybe a bit more often, keep training well within myself, but then have the races be the hard effort that brings me up. Remember we spoke about, that's what Crichton sort of used to, that was his method, was you go away and train for 3 weeks, but you don't flog yourself in those 3 weeks, but then you go and race, and that race then brings you up a level, and then you go back to training, within yourself, but hopefully at a bit of a slightly higher level because of the race that you've done, and then race again. So we'll see how that goes.
We'll have a guessing competition. We'll talk more about next week, predictions, but it's going to be a fascinating guessing competition, I think, for the result there.
Chuck one up on Instagram, a competition, you reckon? Yeah.
Running company Geelong got a prize down there, something sitting
you could give you a sash away, I reckon.
Nah, mate, the sash is going to the store. Do you reckon you can put it in the window?
I put it out the back, I said.
I thought it was in the office.
Put it out the back with all my trophies.
I'm going through my week, okay? Monday, 60 minutes in the morning, 4:42s. And I forgot to mention, boys, that they opened the new bridge last week, but I hadn't run over it at that stage, so that's why I didn't talk about it on the podcast. But on Sunday last week, all the residents got to walk over it before it was open to traffic. So that was pretty cool. And they had like paddle stammers going underneath, and they had aeroplanes like flying over the top and doing like forward flips and stuff, and like ice creams and coffee machines on the bridge. And it was like, there was like 10,000 people walking over it. It was pretty cool. So on Monday I wanted to run over it, but it was still closed. It wasn't open until like midday when Barnaby Joyce was coming to cut the tape and stuff. So
Barnaby Joyce
came in.
Why the fuck did Barnaby? What? Why was he the one?
I think our electorate is Nationals.
Nationals.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. We're country, mate. Country up here.
Oh,
I think it's a pretty safe seat as well.
Oh yeah, but imagine that guy being your leader.
Well, he wasn't there for the actual... He's not our MP from our area, but someone from the Nationals is, yeah.
Oh,
so he was in town.
Wow.
But I'm not sure why he didn't go on the day that everyone got to walk across. They had like a special ceremony the day after. So anyway,
make it.
Yeah, that's it. My 60-minute run, I tried to get onto it, but I couldn't get on. The fences were still up, so I just came home. And then on the afternoon, I did get to go over it. It was open up in the afternoon, so I kind of did 15 minutes out, 15 minutes back on the new bridge, and it was so good. It's weird that it's in Echuca. Like, just a bit of infrastructure like that, it's just almost too good for our town. It just feels a bit out of place having a nice new bridge like that there, and got some hills on it. And it was like, remember when COVID happened and there was like lockdowns, and then everyone like discovered like exercising for the first time? So like all the bike paths and stuff are like packed. That's what it was like on Monday afternoon. Everyone in town just wanted to go for a bike ride or walk or take their dogs out, and there was just people exercising everywhere over the new bridge. So there's some pretty good vibes out there. Saw a few people I knew, and great for the town. Tuesday, got out for a track workout. It was 1K hard, 5 minutes recovery, 600 metres hard, 3 minutes recovery, and 400 metres hard. And that recovery is like walking around, like full recovery, trying to recover as much as possible. Pretty generous like amount of time, but we definitely needed it. I did the first K in 2:42, and then I did the 600 in 1:35, and then I did the 400 in 62, and that hurt. Like the speed, it's 2K worth of workout, but it felt like I'd been out there for like 15K. Like you just get lactic. I had lactic in my arms and stuff. Like whole different hurt, that kind of speed. But I was reasonably happy with it. Like the times aren't amazing, but considering like the condition of our track, I was I thought if I could do that workout, it'd put me in good shape for Stawell coming up, which would have been like 6 days after this one. Archie did that with me as well, so that was good to have some company. And then I got out for 30 minutes in the afternoon at 4:53 pace. And then it just cooks me. Like Wednesday was struggling, 65 minutes at 4:39s, and then 30 minutes in the afternoon at 4:43s. Thursday I was still struggling. Like, I think it's just biomechanically. When you go on that pace, for me, it's so much quicker than I'm used to running. Like, things hurt that just don't usually hurt. So it takes me like 2 or 3 days to actually feel decent again. So on the Thursday I did 95 at 4:34. Trying to find, we've got a new fun run starting up in town, and I'm on the committee for it, and we're trying to find some new loops for a 10K and a half marathon. And I tried to find a couple, but one was a bit long and one was a bit short, so I've got to get back out there and see if I can...
You know where to go. You know where to go.
What do you mean? The industrial estate?
Yeah, of course.
It's not going to be...
Come on.
It's not going to be great.
In Australia to run.
Not going to be great for the scenic conditions and stuff.
Or the course that you did your half marathon
Mate,
on.
that was legit, that one.
Why don't you have a fun run out and back?
No, it's the whole thing is going over the two bridges now. Like, you can go bridge to bridge and do like this lap of like through the old port, past the paddle steamers, through Moama Beach. Like you get to view the river and stuff. Not just like a 10K out some country road, do a U-turn. That's not going to get people into town. So we're trying to map the perfect route at the moment, which I haven't got right. And then Friday was my second workout. I did this with Archie as well. I did 5 by 5 minutes at like 3:15 pace off 90 seconds. I got rolling a bit in the last one, but just a nice little workout, nothing too hard. Kind of that close to the race, it was just something to tick the legs over, not something to try and gain fitness from or something we had to recover from. because he was also meant to be racing a mile yesterday in Bendigo. Remember that Dragon Mile race I did a few years ago, the one at the Easter Parade? But they cancelled it because it was raining. So he missed his race. 25 minutes Friday afternoon, easy.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, go back again. They did what?
They cancelled the parade because it was raining.
Oh.
And then because the parade is why the roads get closed, then they couldn't run the mile road race that happens before the parade.
Stiff.
So not great for him. Like, sat in the car, drove to Bendigo. We kind of worked out his training around it and then got there and, pretty much got told, go home. So that wasn't good. Saturday, caught up with Dave Alcock. He's a listener. Comes to Echuca every Easter. So I go for a run with him pretty much every Easter. One of your coaches too, Moose.
Yeah, he's a run-strong man.
He was telling me that when he was jogging, so I had a good chat with him. He comes up every Easter. Took him out to Barmer last time. Showed him some horses, some Brumbies out in Barmer. But this time we just stayed local. So 60 minutes with him and then 30 minutes and some strides on Sunday because I was racing on Monday. We've kind of spoken about it already. But, the Stawell Gift handicapped mile, Herb Hedemann. I was the front marker off 130 metres with another fella, which was kind of good having somebody else off the same mark as me. Pat Hagan, his name was. I think he's from Queensland. He'd come down for the race. I was super nervous for this race. I think because I knew I had a mark that was good and going to put me in a position to win the race, I was feeling that extra pressure. And even beforehand, like the days leading in, I was getting a bit negative. Like, I kind of wanted to do the festive Easter stuff with my family and cousins and, get on the beers and eating the chocolate Easter eggs and kind of like, those things you kind of sacrifice a bit when you got a bit of a big race coming up. So I was kind of thinking, what am I doing this for? Like, I've done this years ago. Why am I back here? Especially with you two boys pulling out, and then Nidda, he also pulled out last minute as well. I'm like, everyone's pulling out. I could easily just like pull out here. But went over there, pissing down rain the whole drive over, like 2 hours, which I thought was going to help me because I'm a bit like, more 5K focused than 1500. So a wet track makes it a bit heavier, which helps like the strength guys over the speed guys. And then went over, got in there, kind of put my bag down, did a warm up, ran it. It was run a bit late for timing. I thought I was going all right for time, and then had to cut my warm up a bit short just because I thought I was going to miss the start. But got there all good, did some strides, and then gun went and Pat, who I was off with, he went to the front, which was good because I didn't really want to go gun to tape. And I thought if this kid went off hard from the gun, at least I could kind of hopefully use him as a bit of a pacemaker for the first lap. And then I'd sat down with a couple of mates who used to run a lot of pro races back in the day when I used to do it, probably more than 5 years, 10 years ago. My mate Noel and Crammers and Fisky, we kind of come up with a bit of a plan that if I was going to put myself in a position to win, I kind of had to make sure the back and the middle markers didn't get a sniff. So the plan was to go hard 400 metres into the race and try to gap the field. So when those guys looked up with a lap and a half to go, we wanted to try and give the impression that their race was over because there was no way they were going to pull me in. So sat behind Pat for the first 400, and then someone yelled out the times as we went through 400 and yelled out like 63, 64, and I thought that was kind of like maybe a touch slow because I thought you have to run like maybe 4 minutes to win this race, and that's spot on, like 4 minute pace. And then I just went to the front and just tried to keep the foot down, put a bit of a kick in at 700 and then another kick with about 350, and then just ran scared. It was one of those ones where I wasn't sure where anyone was behind me, and I couldn't really hear the commentator in the stadium. And then I just saying to Brad off air before, with like 150, 180 metres, like the crowd was just getting a bit louder and louder, and I thought I'm about to get swamped here, like there's going to be some guys coming up on my shoulder. And then kind of went into the home straight and looked up at the big screen, and there was kind of no one there, and kind of won by 4 seconds in the end, which is a pretty big gap in that kind of race. And I ran 4:02, which is not startling quick. Usually that race is kind of 1 in 4 minutes, and when I won it 10 years ago, that was 1 in 4 minutes. So maybe a bit slower due to the wet track, but good to get some prize money, good to get another Stawell sash, and it's a unique experience, Stawell, because it's very different to anything else that I do running. Like, it's so different to road races. It's so different to any Vic Milers Club or track and field stuff you do. It's really in a league of its own with their old traditions and the history there, and like the TV coverage and the money and the gambling component. So happy to jump back into that scene and to get a win again. So made the most of the mark, had a good mark, made the most of it, and happy man.
What happened after the race? You just sell it, like, you hang around the track for very long?
I
signed a few autographs?
Yeah, signed a few actually. Did sign a few, posed for a few photos. And when I was signing some autographs, I'm like, I feel like a fraud. I'm literally telling that to the dad of the kid's shirt I'm signing, because I'm like, I'm the front marker who's just won this. Like, I'm not the best person in the race. Like, it's the better runners are behind me, and I've just ran up to the handicap that I was given.
Well, not really. That's what I saw when I watched that footage. Was you were actually...
There were some very fast guys behind me, Moose.
On the day, your fitness level, you were probably from third to fifth fastest in that race, yet you were marked as the slowest in the race. That's why you
from
won
the
by
footage. 800
meters, basically. So like watching the race, you were much faster than everyone behind you, probably bar maybe four people. You were the faster athlete going into that race.
Well, there's a 344 guy, a 345 guy, a 347 guy.
Yeah, they
in the field.
And then lots of probably mid-3, and then lots of mid-350s, which is basically where you are.
There's two 352s, and then a lot of like 355 guys,
But that's the thing, like, you were fitter than them. Well, you clearly were.
Yeah, I've come a long way the last 6 weeks too. Like, what probably worked well for me was I did that race at Vic Countries and got a time next to my name, and I've got fitter, whereas a lot of these guys as well, they've had long track and field seasons where they're hitting their PBs at Vic Milers clubs in March, and they're probably on their way down.
Whereas and the dynamic. Sorry, Brady, go on.
No, I was just saying, and I'm on I had the time off over December, Jan, and I'm on the way up. Like, I'm starting to get fit now, so my season's been a bit different than a lot of those guys on the race. And I also think, like, Archie and I training on grass, and like a crap grass track. So when I go to race on it, it doesn't worry me. Whereas a lot of these guys are used to synthetic and paced races and things like that. So that plays a factor as well. Because my time wasn't, like, a few people said, you kind of, how much did you pay the handicapper, or stuff like those comments. And I'm like, well, I ran 402 off 130, which is worse than the time I was handicapped on. Like, I was handicapped to run a 404 1500, and I've probably just run a 406 1500. So I've just ran...
These times, you didn't run 1500 though.
Yeah, I know, so that's what I'm saying. So if I was to run a 1500, I probably would have run a 406 or 407 1500, which is slower than the time I had submitted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
it's a wet track as well.
You only run as fast as you have to win.
Yeah. And the way and I think the dynamic as well, because as we've said, is your fitness was probably a lot better than actually what your handicap was. So the fact that you were out in front to start with, then you ran hard, it meant that you're probably pulling away from a lot of those guys. And so that got to the 600 to go, and those sort of middle markers to back markers look up and like, there's no way I'm catching that. Whereas if you cruised early, it probably would have given them a bit more of a sniff and actually kept them pushing harder. Whereas you know yourself, like, if you look up in those handicap races and there's a lap to go and somebody's like 80 meters in front, you're like, well, there's no way I can catch that up. Why am I busting my ass now for the next 400? Yeah,
and that's what we wanted to do, like, really optimize on that mark and play to our strengths, and try to put things away early on. Which it wasn't crazy fast though. Like, it was 208 to the 800. But as you said, that 208 might be different on a synthetic track. But yeah,
it was 208 minus your...
No, I ran 2 laps.
Oh, yeah.
In 208, yeah.
Wait, so you get 400 metres from your exact spot where you started?
Yeah, so they've got all markings on the track, and you go out there, and then, you can kind of check some of the footage sometimes, or I don't know who...
Are you allowed to wear watches?
You actually are, yeah. That rule got changed a couple of years ago. So a few people wrote in after we spoke about it last week saying that rule doesn't exist anymore. I still didn't. I was like, I'm just going to do this on feel and just try to win. But I haven't been that nervous before a race in so long. Like, I thought I had COVID standing on the start line because my heart was like coming out my throat.
Do you know why?
And those mile guys, they all fit. Like, I'm lining up next to them going, all these guys are going to smoke me. They got veins coming out their calves. They're like tanned. They got like, you know how they're all tall and they just got like good techniques doing strides.
They're 100 meters. But they're 100 meters behind you, mate.
I know, but that just goes to show what happens like pre-race. I was so nervous, and I'm like, I'm gonna get smoked here. I'm too old for this stuff. But once the gun goes and you're like, there's a plan, execute it. Like, it's a very simple sport when you break it down.
It looked easy.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. No one even challenged you at any point in the race.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it looked like that, because 2 minutes before the start line, I didn't feel like it was about to look like that.
But you always get more nervous when the expectation's there, and I think you knew like you had a massive chance before the race. So
yeah,
if you were off
race to lose,
if you're at the back and you're against the 3:42 guy, of course you're not going to win. So you don't care, you don't get nervous. But when people are almost, or you're more like yourself, you're expecting to do well, which you knew that there was a chance you would win. There's going to be nerves when you know there's a chance you can win.
Yeah. So, it was good. And I might just talk about the women's 1K while we're here. Do you want to just quickly do that? Because that was the race of the meet. Like, that was where they had, the back marker was Kat Bissett. She ran the whole... it was Linden Hall. Sorry, Linden Hall ran the whole 1K. Kat Bissett had 2 metre head start. And then they had Abbey Caldwell and Georgia Griffith, 7 metre head starts. And then Sarah Billings, 12 metres. Then Natalie Rule, 14 metres. Tess Kirsup-Cole, 15 metres. And the front marker was Melissa Duncan, 18 metres. So they were super close together. If you think about what I'm just talking about in my race, like, I had 130 metres. So we had bigger gaps. But this was fascinating to watch because they started so close together. And then... I'm not sure you've watched the Moose or not. I know you have, Croaks.
No, I didn't watch this.
It was interesting because a lot of, inexperience amongst them running these kind of races, and they kind of all had a bit of a go at the front, Croaks. It was like they weren't sure when to go or when to have their kicks, and Melissa Duncan was the front marker and took it out pretty strong, and then Nat Rule came around and looked really strong, looked like she was going to win it, and then Abbey Caldwell looked like she was going to win it, and then Georgia Griffiths kind of come through and she got the win in 2 minutes 40. Abbey Caldwell was second, is 2:41, and Linden Hall came from the back to also be third in 2:41. So fascinating race, and like they flew them in, like they flew them in from Melbourne, got a little plane, and I thought that was pretty cool to look after them that way, and good to see talent like that getting around.
Yeah, that was a good race.
Yeah, it looks like a good field. Very good field.
And it's such a tough, I think what made it hard was 1K is such a brutal distance. And so if you're giving somebody a start and you overcook it a little bit in that first 600 to try and make up the gap, you've put yourself into a massive deficit. And then that's when the bear jumps on your back. So a 1K, when it's an even race, that distance hurts as it is. But then trying to either make up distance or go out hard and extend it early is just going to put people, in a lot of hurt from a long way out. Yeah, and I think you can say what you want about handicap racing and stuff, and the best person, in that race is maybe Linden Hall and then Kat Bissett, or Kat Bissett then Linden Hall, and they don't win. But I think it does have that entertainment factor that you're not sure what's going to happen, and sometimes that's good because we've watched Kat Bissett win every 800 this season, and it's kind of like the scripts followed and you know what's going to happen before the race actually happens, whereas this is kind of like the unknown factor, and you could tell with their racing tactics that they also didn't know what was going to happen. Like, Nat Rule looked great with 400 to go and she got beaten by 8 seconds. It's just, if you can't get the timing right, it's these races that sort you out pretty quick. But do you know what, I actually don't have an issue with pro running in it. So the theory behind it is great. It's the application where the issue is. If you rocked up to those races and you knew that everybody on that start list had equal opportunity of winning, I would be all for it. And that's, largely how it should be, where you've got multiple people fighting it out down the straight. But in reality, it doesn't happen. And you know, it can't, because like the handicappers have to obviously just work off information that they've been given, or a lot of the time they don't even know the information. So there's always going to be people that are handicapped out of it, and there's always going to be people that have too generous of a handicap, and that's where it's not a good spectacle. But if you could guarantee that everybody on that start line, if they ran to the best of their ability, has a chance of winning, then pro running would be awesome.
And obviously doing something right, like it's the TV coverage and the prize money, and I'm not sure how, what athletics can do that they do to capitalise like they do. Like obviously athletics, track and field, well I guess it does have the history, but not as much as Stawell. But when you're over there and in person, you're like, this product works, and there's a few different components to it, why it works. And even the fact that they just, and I know they have to do it for the TV coverage, but they just roll, it's race after race. There's hardly any gap, and they're just efficient and it's smooth. And every race that happens is kind of exciting because you're not sure who's going to win. There's no dull, like lull moments. I know I've had this conversation every Easter, but here we go again with Pro Chat. But anyway, it was good. So back to family life. No bender, and we'll go again, something else soon. Thanks to Patreon supporters. I must say thanks to all the listeners. If you feel like a bit, because a lot of people write in and celebrate, and I was just telling you guys a story off air how our postie was like knocking on the door this morning saying like how she watched it on TV, and you do all these kind of interviews, and it's really heartfelt that you kind of make an impact and people are yelling at the TV on the couch for you. But it's also this weird bit around like athletic performance wise. What I did at Run for the Kids 2 weeks ago was much better than that, but no one gives a shit. Like, or people give a shit, but it's funny because of the prestige around Stawell, how much attention that comes with it. And like hearing from like second cousins that I haven't heard from for like 10 years, like send you messages and calling you because you've done this at Stawell. It's, it's very, had a high school mate, like literally wouldn't have heard from him for 10 years. Probably last time I won Stawell. Like send me a message today, like that was great, we watched it on the TV, and I'm like, I've done way cooler stuff than that in the last 10 years, but it just doesn't get the hype.
Have a baby. Maybe
literally, I've been married and had 2 kids and haven't heard from this bloke at all. And it's just
win Stawell off running 100 metres
of 130 metres handicap, and then people like think you won an Olympic gold medal. So it's I'm not saying I'm disrespect the praise or anything like that, because I really do appreciate that, but it's just funny how different events are seen in the public, and that's why like it's on national TV, so it gets that hype.
Yeah okay,
it's thanks to Patreon supporters. Moose
Brad, this was Monday, which means he's going to do it in his recap next week as well.
Yeah, he's starting on Tuesday next week.
I tell you what, Brad, you're not well liked down there either. They're not happy with you still after stringing them along for all those weeks.
Yeah, that was
talk to some of the officials. They go, we get with Moose, and they're like, you reckon Moose would have come? Like, it's just his injury that held him back. And I'm like, oh yeah, Moose would have come for sure. And they're like, that other bloke though, stringing us along for weeks, us.
Well, with you having the handicappers in your pocket, you probably would have got 140, and I would have been on 130.
No, they said they were going to give you 160, 30 metres ahead, out there by yourself.
Really?
Yeah, no, and you would have won Fashions on the Field. That was $1,000. You and Viv both would have won that. Yeah, they said they had you down for 160.
I didn't think I thought 130 was the limit.
Well, 100 used to be the limit, and I don't know how I got 130.
That's probably what it should be.
Last question, Brady.
Yes.
How much cash did you win, and what are you going to use it on in my store?
I won't be using it in your store at all. I think I'm not sure. I just watched on the TV. They said
it's $2,500. I heard him say it.
Yeah, but I was talking to Brad about that off air. It's a $5,000 race, so surely the winner should get more than half of it.
No, they pay down.
Why are we paying down to 10? I reckon if you win by 4 seconds, give it all to the winner.
There's only 10 blokes in it.
That's why those guys should have been trying harder, Croaks, instead of giving up. Yeah, they paid down to 10.
Players, surely
so second must have got $1,000. Third must have maybe 500. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh God, you come 7th. Give that money back.
Yeah, give it to the winner, I reckon. Yeah, so I'm not sure, and I wasn't. Yeah, supposedly they send you an email with all the payment details. I wanted to get one of those big checks. You know how the Stawell Gift winners get the one with they win 40,000 each.
They normally have to give half of it back because they've cheated through the year.
Imagine 40,000. Imagine winning that. It's like a year's teaching wage for me.
Yeah, there's always kids that win it too. Like from Ballarat, there's a group here. They always win it. The pod squad. I reckon one of the girls was like 14 when she won 40 grand.
Yeah.
Insane amount of money. That's crazy.
Then the trainers take like 20%.
No, not pod squad. I reckon they just have. I think the rule is they have to buy a piece of kit for the gym. I think that's the rule, maybe.
Oh, really? And that's the thing with kids, like, they're just going to improve anyway, so they're hard handicap.
Yeah, they would be. They'll improve like based on experience within that competition.
Yeah, so that's that. Let's thank some Patreon supporters though. Moose, kick us off. Big name here.
Elizabeth Matthews, coach of, what's the group called?
Team Matthews, isn't it?
Team Matthews. Yeah, I think is it Team Matthews? She's from Yarraville in Victoria, western suburbs. I always hear this and go, oh, Luke must be a hard-edged blue-collar boy, but really he's not. He got picked up by the private school early and he turned real soft and real punsy. But his roots are in the western suburbs, Yarraville. So Liz, his mother of 3 children, qualified primary school teacher, took up coaching in 2012 and is an Athletics Australia accredited coach who works out of Williamstown and St Kevin's athletics clubs. Coached an athlete to a bronze medal at the 2018 Com Games. That was her son. And maybe works at St Catherine's School as well. But yeah, like a pretty big deal when she coached Luke to that 800-meter bronze medal, like after all the stuff that's that Luke went through with the coaching changes and all that, and then to go back to his mum Liz, and I know that he was running a lot with his dad on the bike through like that area where they live. Before that race, it was a pretty cool story, I reckon.
Make a good chapter in the book, wouldn't it?
Kudos to the coach, really. We all know the coach does the most amount of work out of the team.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Liz, for your support. Croaks, who you got?
I got Jordan McLennan this week. Jordan's from the Gold Coast, runs for Gold Coast Run Co. and has some pretty impressive PBs, 154 for 8, 349 1500, 813 for 3K, 1419 for 5 and 3059 for 10. He's definitely on the prove. His 813 and 1419 were both done only recently. I went to college in the US for a little while, to LMU, which is around Los Angeles area. He's a multimedia and architecture graduate, design consultant with Metricon. And boys, remember he was a member of our Steigen #1 team, where he absolutely buried himself for our team. So, good guy, and one to look out for over the next couple of years. So thanks for your support, Jordo.
Yeah, good fella. He was the reason we won that, I reckon. He ran way quicker than what he was ranked.
Yeah, smooth mover too, real rangy.
He's smooth. I'm going to thank Wade Griffin from Warrnambool. Got 3 kids, I'm pretty sure. Saw one photo with 3 kids, one photo with 2 kids, so I think I've got that right. Maybe one kid was just left off the 2-kid photo. Strava's been a bit quiet lately, but I reckon that's because he did the 100k Surf Coast Century in December down your way, Moose.
He did.
Oh, you know him?
Run strong man.
Oh, is he? Yeah. Well, he ran 148 at the Great Ocean Road Half Marathon last year. Well, do you know, Moose, did he possibly run Comrades back in 2014?
That is something I don't know.
Do you know any other PBs? What else you got on him?
Nah, just the Surf Coast Century result, coached by Neil Scholes, and took a bit of a break to reassess goals over the summer.
Yeah, you need to let the body bounce back post that, don't you? 2,000 metres of elevation gain, it said on his Strava today.
From the Surf Coast Century? Yeah, that's interesting because it's not a very hilly 100k, but 2,000, like over 100k, it's probably, what's that, 2%? It's still not that much, really. Got
a nice beard on him too. See that photo below?
Yeah, it looks a bit like you, actually.
It's a real Threlfall kind of just ragged beard, isn't it? Not a kind of hipster one. Bit of a dad beard.
That to me screams country boy, actually.
Warrnambool kind of guy.
Country fella, probably lives out of Warrnambool half an hour right in the farms.
Looks like he can fight, I reckon. Not that we can fight, and we're not saying that's a good thing, but he just looks like he can fight.
Country boys can fight.
Handle himself in a scrap. I know, Moose. I come from Echuca.
Country and coastal boys.
There's some brawlers up here.
Yeah,
looks good.
I don't know.
Thanks, Wade.
Good on you, Wade.
Wade, Jordo, Elizabeth, thank you for your support. And I like your idea last week, Croaks, about the $5 capsicum. I reckon we've got to run a capsicum campaign. If you think the last month's content is worth one capsicum, sign up to Patreon. Supporters, $5 a month, one capsicum. Jeff Risley 2-hour interview. Olli Hoare this week.
Good one too. Good interview with Jeff.
What else has come up? What else has come up recently? You got stall chat. You got an hour a week talking about results and stuff. Training talk.
Go back to Road to New York with Sinead and Ali before they got famous. That was good.
Yeah, you don't get that for the capsicum level, but
don't you?
No.
Well,
maybe we can open. Actually, what I could do, if anyone signs up in the remaining.
Hey, we got to chat about this.
I'm just saying. I can cut this if you don't agree with it. But what about just for anyone who signs up on the $5 capsicum level for the next until May? I'll open the access to just that six or 7 episode series of Road to New York. What year was it? I can do that. 2019. So if you sign up to the capsicum level, you will then, in your RSS feed, see 6 or 7 episodes of Road to New York, Ali Pashley, Sinead Diver, before they broke through. I reckon I can do that. I reckon I can do it.
We'll assess this. We'll chat about it later.
Talk some business. See if that works. Running news, boys. Boston was this morning. Anyone watch it?
No.
Didn't
saw
watch
the results when I got out of bed.
I watched it. Turned off my phone. Got it going. And then, sat there. Hudson went to daycare. Carly went out for breakfast. Me and Olivia watched it on the couch. It was a good race, both of them, actually. Women's was super close. That was a sprint finish. The lead changed about 4 or 5 times in the last K, I'm going to say. And Paris Chepchirchir, she won it. She's had a...
Paris who?
Paris Chepchirchir. That's pretty close, isn't it?
Yeah, you did all right there.
Yeah, that's pretty close. She's the Olympic gold medalist, and then she also went to New York and won New York, I'm going to say, and then she's now won Boston. So 3 massive wins in 8 months. She won, and it was quick, 2:21.01, pretty quick for a Boston course. Ababel Yasheneh, I've nailed that, boys. She was second, 2:21.05, and Mary Nguigi was third in 2:21.32. 3 of them broke ahead, with Jocelyn Jeptikai being the third, but she actually dropped back to 7th. And then they kind of played a bit of cat and mouse, didn't want to really put the foot down and kick home, which then gave Edna Kipruto the opportunity to catch back up. Not quite to get on that pack, but she, definitely. I think she's 42 now, Edna Kipruto.
Yeah, she's 41.
41.
She's 42. Oh, no, maybe 42. Yeah, 42. Yeah, it's incredible.
So, she had a great run. She win last year? No.
I'm not sure.
Maybe. Oh. She got a pretty successful record at Boston, I think. So, she came 4th in the end. Top American was Nell Rojas. And she
was who?
Is it Nell Rojas? She was the top American there last year as well.
Oh.
Rojas. She was the one... She was
Rojas, I think. Yeah.
She was unsponsored last year and come top American, and then got sponsored by Adidas at the start of this year, and then cancelled her sponsorship because she didn't want to run in the Adidas shoes, and now she's
no shit.
And now she's unsponsored.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
I wonder, there must have been a terrible deal they gave her. You can just cancel us.
Well, she withdrew her contract kind of thing. She didn't want to be sponsored by them anymore.
That's insane.
Well, the winner was wearing Adidas shoes, but obviously it's got to work for you. Charlotte Purdue, who was in one position in front of her. Adidas as well. She ran 2:25.26, so another good run for Charlotte to be top 10 at Boston. Pretty deep field, a lot of all East Africans in front of her. It goes Kenya, Ethiopia, Kenya, Ethiopia, Great Britain. So
was it a course record?
Wasn't. They were on for a while. I think through half, I'm going to say they're on course record pace. But then when it came down to just 2 of them out in front, they just kind of put the brakes on and didn't want to show their hand kind of thing until it came down to a bit of a kick down. So it was a really good race. That was much better than the men's race because Evan Chebet, he ended up winning by 30 seconds. and he just went, I'm going to say it like 37, 38k. Like, I think I've never ran Boston, but when they come out of the hills, does that make sense to you boys? Like, are they kind of
hills there? I think.
Coming out of the hills, he just made a massive move. I'm going to say, I wish I had this in front of me, because I think he ran like a 13.52 5k.
It's slightly downhill over the hills.
Yeah, it is. But this was a good field, and he gapped everyone and then ran solo through to the finish line and looked super strong. Cherono was second, and then Benson Kipruto, who won the year before, was third. So we're talking 206.51, 207.21, 207.27. Top American Scott Fauble, he ran 208.52. So PB, I think, and another guy who left his sponsorship because he was with Hoka, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was with Naz Elite.
Yeah, Ben Rosario and that.
And now he's gone to Joe Bossard.
Yeah, so and he's unsponsored. He's wearing a Lululemon singlet. So that he bought himself. So fancy that, being a 208 guy, first American at Boston. But I guess if you've got sponsorship and it's not the one you want, it's different than when you're saying you're not sponsored.
Well, I don't know about the contract stuff. I think that's the problem with those groups, that if you sign up with a brand, sign up with a group that's with a brand, you kind of have to cop that brand, don't you? If so, like Hoka, Naz Elite, like that, the brand's going to look after you. If you join the group, it's like I guess it's a benefit and a negative.
Jeffrey Comworo was in there as well. Had a bit of a shocker. I think he was like 18th, 19th. We haven't. I don't. Ever since he got hit by that motorcycle, I just don't think we've seen the same Jeffrey Comworo.
He came. He was going a bit at that last race. Was it Paris he did, where he was running through the field a little bit? Maybe came third. You remember that?
Not sure.
He did do one, I remember, and he looked pretty good.
Okay.
This is what I like about Boston, though, because like it's like the only major marathon that's actually not like a super flat course, and so it does throw a lot more variables. I heard an interview with one of the athletes saying that there's so many variables once you get to the hills, in that you can get over the hills, but if you're cooked by that stage, you actually can't make the most of the downhills. Like you're running super slow downhill because you're cooked. Which, doesn't make a lot of sense. You're thinking, oh, yeah, downhill, you're just going to fly. But, yeah, there's certainly a lot more variables at Boston, which probably keeps a lot of those second-tier marathoners in the game a bit longer and gives them a chance of actually winning it.
Yeah, Musha, right, he come fourth at Valencia, 205.23.
Yeah, the Boston only has like 265 metres or something of climbing. It's not crazy. It's not as hilly as Great Ocean Road.
But the thing is, it always looks like they're going up or down. When I'm watching today, I'm like, this looks like a terrible course. It looks like a fun course, but it doesn't look like a fast course. But, they still run pretty quick there.
And I think a lot of people, the downhill at the start probably takes more out of their... Like, yes, they run fast, but it also cooks their legs for later on in the race, which you probably don't get so much on a flat marathon.
Well, here's a hot take for you, and you heard it here first. When Kipchoge goes to win this race, he won't win it. I don't think. I think the hills are going to sort him out. I think we've
never seen him on hills.
I know,
I reckon he runs plenty of hills back home.
I think if Chebet did what he did today against Kipchoge, I don't think Kipchoge will cover that. Kipchoge is used to running fast. Every 5k is very locked in until he kicks home.
Big call, Brady.
I think he's going to bash up his legs. Big call. He's not getting any younger. There's a lot of these Kenyans coming out. They're hungry. Anyway, Michael Roeger was also there. He won his para classification, but I don't think he'd be happy with this time. And I did see on his Strava that he had stomach issues early on. And, it was a bit of a tough day for him. He ran 2:25.42 for the first position there, which is pretty cool that they've got a para. Although they've got a para classification, he went off with the elite men, so he wasn't on the start line with those guys. Good work for Michael Roeger over there. Coverage absolutely terrible again. You know that old timer that they just have on Boston?
Yeah.
I turned it on this morning. I'm like, oh shit, Olivia, we're stuck with this guy for the next 2.5 hours. This ain't going to be good. And they just know nothing about running. I don't know how these guys get the gig. They didn't even say anything about like the top Americans in there. I didn't hear him mention Fauble until like he crossed the line. I don't think they even mentioned him when he crossed the line. It's like must be the cable TV feed that we get on Flow Track or something. It wasn't good.
Oh, it can't have been worse than Rotterdam last weekend.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one.
Well, that was up there with the worst. They were calling him what were they? They referred to the shoes like carbon springs or something. It's always the shoes. They just come back to the shoes every single fucking time. Every single time.
Was that the one, Moose, where they were referring to the people as number 5 and number 7?
It was so complacent that they just forgot. They just stopped trying to pronounce names and just used the name on their bib. Number 2 is going for it now, and number 5 has dropped off the back. It's probably that's racism, really. To just go, nah, fuck it, they're all the same. Let's just call them by a number.
Imagine if any other sport did that.
That is horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was terrible stuff.
The other notable thing was Molly Seidel, past guest, Olympic bronze medalist. DNF, didn't get to the 30k mat. Looked like she was limping. Haven't seen anything.
Oh, something about her hip, I reckon.
Hip, knee. She has all the tape on her. Like that's probably not a great sign. But
you on the start line, you're racing.
She's on the world champs, though, hasn't she been picked in the world champs team?
I know.
Which would be a short turnaround.
There is a team pick for those guys already, yeah, but
I think she's on that world champs Oregon team. So maybe it's like this isn't going well. Pull out and save yourself. Don't know.
Yeah. You wonder though, why would you start a marathon with an injury? That's never going to end well.
You know exactly why to do that.
Yeah, but you still got to finish to get you got to finish to get the money.
Some of them have checkpoints, though, don't you? Like you get a 25, you'll get 25k, you'll get 50% of it and stuff like that.
Pacing. I don't reckon. I reckon it's like maybe there's an appearance but most of the time I think the major money is for a finish. Otherwise, people would take the piss.
Yeah, you just pull out straight away and go to the one the next weekend.
Yeah.
Some news out of Bowerman. Croaks,
did you mention Rogues?
Yeah, I mentioned Rogues.
Oh, yeah,
stomach issues early on, 225.
Should we, are we going to talk about that?
Dissect it?
We often mention Rogues and how he hasn't run a good marathon. I mean, he ran 2:18, was it?
2:19, I think.
2:19 at that set up one in Sydney. And, didn't have a good run at the Olympics. And it's... at some point, you got to go, hey, Rogues, maybe your career is on, you're a great track runner. You've run sub 14. That's amazing.
13:52,
well under 14.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's crushing it on the track. Why isn't it converting? I don't know. Is it training? Or is it something around pacing, or what is it, stomach issues, nutrition? You wouldn't think it would be nutrition, mate. He lives in Canberra.
Stomach issues in his post on Strava.
Yeah, but so for me, stomach. Surely you know. I've never really had a stomach issue in a race, but you can train. You can basically condition your stomach to handle what you're putting into it. There's training involved with that. It would be, maybe I'm just a little bit I just haven't been exposed to it myself, but a lot of the time, even the people that within our group, we have Sundays where we take every single gel and at the same protocol we would be in the race to really work out what's going to go right and wrong. And you would hope that those guys are doing that. What do you think? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, we try to do that. I'm sure they're doing it. You do it, 6 weeks out, and every Sunday you're practicing. Is this too many gels? Is this not enough gels? How'd you feel at the end of it? What was happening with your guts?
Yeah, you'd think you'd be so fine tuned that you wouldn't you wouldn't cop a gut issue. Maybe it is just a once off or something. I don't know.
Tell you what, if you want a decent Strava look at his Strava, because he only puts up some real good stuff. And you don't have to scroll through all the easy jogs. He did quarters in 13:42.
When?
22nd of March.
Yeah, that would have been around when he ran that massive 5K that he ran. The fast. Like, I mean, that's what I mean. You got a 13:52 guy. To me, that guy, like him, if he's training as a marathoner, he should be running 2:14 at least, 2:12. More like 2:12 for me.
3x5K, all under 16. Some good workouts in here.
Yeah, but 16, like that's good work. That's a paced workout. That would be comfortable for him, very comfortable. So I think he's like that's a good workout.
That's that. Croaks, you want to read through this next bit? Bowman.
Yeah. So Gabriella debuts Stafford, leaves Bowman Track Club due to the uncertainty over Shelby Houlihan's continuing relationship with Jerry Schumacher. And the Bowman Track Club was the key factor in her departure. So that's a big name to have lost because she came 5th at the recent Olympics. And just a few others that have left since the start of 2021 include Kate Grace, Marielle Hall, Emily Infield, Colleen Quigley, and Gwen Jorgensen. So, mass exodus from Bowman.
Thoughts?
I don't really have any, to be honest.
Don't you? I like it
Not
when I
really.
saw this post come up, and I'm like, good on you. Because that group is just like, when that news broke of her doping ban, they all backed her, and then it seems like they're still backing her and she's still training, and like, it's the association, that can't be good for the people in that group.
Yeah.
I know they like got contracts and what we're talking about before, like you're part of something bigger, but I don't know. She was saying in her post that it was like affecting her mental health, and when she was in that group, she didn't think this is what it would have looked like with that convicted drug cheat still being involved.
Yeah, I think if you're in that group, you definitely have to have somewhat of thick skin, but also stay off social media, because that would be pretty bad for your mental health, I reckon.
But that's bullshit that you got to stay off social media, but then they go and back her on social media. Like, no one's come out in that group backing this girl. Like, how come
that's the problem, isn't it?
How come they didn't do a post saying, "Oh, thanks Gabriella for your time at Bowman. You come 5th at the Olympics. You like broke all these Canadian records. Yada yada yada." Like, you didn't see.
She wasn't there for long, was she? A year?
What she did when she was there, that was pretty. And she'd come 4th at World Indoors the other day, didn't she? Like, she was the one that went out hard, though. I reckon she Always
went out
has a
hard
different
defending
colour hair.
her.
And her sister's also in the squad, but she's staying at this stage.
Yeah. It's I don't know what to think of that group.
Yeah,
It's hard, isn't it? Well, I don't know.
But then they go out and smash everything. Like, their performances are amazing, but it's hard to be fans of them. And we don't know what kind of involvement this quote about Jerry Schumacher and his relationship with Shelby Houlihan actually is.
What was the quote?
About what the uncertainty around that Shelby Houlihan relationship with Jerry Schumacher, the head coach. Like, I'm not sure what that looks like. Like, is she still doing sessions with the group, or is she on the warm-up track when they're on the main track, or is he still writing her a program, or...
Yeah.
We need more information about that. And I think she did say somewhere, Gabriella, that she was expecting like a statement to come out to clear all that up, so it looked better for the other group members. But yeah, it's all very hush-hush. Anyway, might have actually an interview with one of those boys next week. Bowman boys.
I've heard of this.
You heard of this? Yeah.
I've heard of this. This is big. This is big news.
So hope he doesn't listen to the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We didn't say anything. All right, we love Bowman. Who listen to question, Crooks?
All right, this week's question comes in from Peter Jenkins. G'day, guys. I would love to know the panel's thoughts on documenting training on YouTube. We've seen a rise of this recently. Does anything grab you as common mistakes or learnings from watching other people, as they're often elite or sub-elite athletes train? For context, I'm a weekend warrior at best and just hope it could spark an interesting conversation. Cheers, Peter.
I must note, Peter, your question was edited because you threw a few names in there and we just didn't want to offend anyone. So thanks, Peter. It's a big thing, isn't it? Often the algorithm at my place has got me worked out as well. Every time I plug on the TV and the YouTube app comes up, I'm always got things popping up about people training. You know?
So for me, like, the common mistake I see is just because these are training videos, so you see them training, but I feel like when the video's on them, they glorify a training session, and they probably run harder than they would if the video wasn't there. And as we know, it's like, it's good to have good training sessions for confidence, but that's not what's important. It's, what you do in the race that counts. So that's probably one of the mistakes I see a lot of people doing on these YouTube training videos.
Yeah, I watched one a few, probably, or I reckon maybe 2 months ago, and it was like a harder long run, and at the end there was a lot of carry on about how fast it was, and you could, at the end, like, the athlete was cooking themselves, and for me, when I watched it and I saw how cooked they were, and then I saw like the high-fiving and stuff about how awesome it was, and this is the best we've ever done, I was like, this bloke's going to be cooked. I bet you he doesn't make his race, and does not make his race, right? Injured, because it's more so, not so much that they've got a video on them, it's just that they're like the race was celebrated, like the workout was celebrated, like you said, glorified, and we're chasing likes, I guess, aren't we? We're chasing exposure, glory, attention, and it's ruining your training.
Yeah, that ego stroke.
Yeah,
and then you can see the views and the download numbers, and it's a fascinating space because, sorry to croaks, I often find like say the Sweat Elite kind of guys, like they'll go and they'll document stuff that's good because you might not have seen that in the past, but then if one of those videos gets a stack of like views, does the athlete get a chip of that like ad revenue? Or,
I doubt it.
Or is their value is being exposed on their channel? Do you know what I mean? That's what they're getting out of it.
I would suggest that. Yeah.
I saw one today where before the session started, the coach had sent through all of the window of splits that they wanted the athlete to hit, and the coach obviously wasn't there at the track, and every single rep was way faster than what was prescribed for the session. And I wonder whether if the video wasn't on him, would have he just run like the splits that were required?
Oh, I think I watched the same one actually, Croaks. I know that one.
Yeah.
Well, I heard about it. On a podcast, and it was ridiculous what happened at that workout from the guy that was just supposed to be helping. Yeah.
And it takes a disciplined man to not get up and about when the camera's out, I reckon. If we had a camera up here in Echuca, I reckon we'd find a few extra seconds. Shirts off.
Yeah.
So cameras are banned from Echuca Moama training. Good question, Peter. And this is good for the sport, I think, in overall. I'm not sure if it's always good for the athletes who are featured in the video, but it is great for the sport, the amount of exposure and, guys like Ben Parks who have made that connection between rec runners and kind of, training and getting that sub-3 hour marathon and kind of giving people workout samples and things like that. I think in general this is all great for the sport. It's just, I wonder how great it is for some of the athletes who might dig a bit deep in training, which is what Peter's talking about.
But also potentially people that aren't as experienced, though, that watch these and think that that's what you need to do to run well, is to run faster than what the coach has prescribed. Like that can be a risk.
Yeah.
Or seeing, a top athlete. Like, yes, there's a time and a place for an athlete to be sprawled on the track. But if you watch every one of these videos and the athletes are like that, that sort of becomes then, okay, is that how I need to train? Which, I don't think that's not good for the sport.
True. Flogging yourself, not good for the sport. Moose on the loose. Got one?
Oh, I haven't been in the sport this week. I'm out of the sport. All I do is just talk with runners on the shop floor, and
pro running.
I didn't get into pro running.
No.
Look, pro one was good. Good year this year in the pro running scene.
Exposure for Stawell. If I was an athlete in Brady's race, I'd be really questioning a few things, but I wasn't. Be having a chat to somebody about this sort of stuff, about how what do I have to run a marathon a few months before? Do you reckon that helps you mark, Brady? marathon?
Mate, I said, I reckon everyone on that start line, she was in the position to run 4 minutes off their mark, and no one did it. And then I was the closest that got to it.
You were the king.
A few blokes just need a few lessons on how to run on the grass track, I reckon.
Nah, I don't have one. I'm good.
What about train and talk then? Tell us about train and workout.
Let's talk about long tempos. This is something that I give my athletes year round. It's not just marathon specific stuff. I like to do it once a month, basically, on a like in place of a threshold where that would normally fit during the week, during the general phase of training, and then in a specific phase we'll do it as well, but be a little bit more, maybe go a bit longer as we get closer to a marathon. So the long tempo, it's not a threshold, it sits under threshold. Your heart rate is underneath your lactate threshold. For me, it should be done at around marathon pace, plus or minus 2 to 5%. So the way you work that out, if you're a 4-hour marathoner, well, let's actually go 3-hour marathoner. So that's 180 minutes. Or no, workout pace. So your 3-hour marathon is 4:15. So 4 minutes and 15 seconds is 255 seconds for that minute, and then you times that by 1.02, and you get
or just type into Google 2% of that. It comes up with it.
Does it? Yeah. Well, I'm old school, you know that, Brady.
You're doing some good maths here. I'm impressed.
260. So it's like 4 minutes. So 4 minutes 20 per K would be, if you're a 4:15 per K marathoner, you would do your tempo probably, so that's about 10 seconds, about 5 seconds either side. So you could do your marathon pace tempos plus or minus 5 seconds a K.
Question before you keep going.
Yeah.
Majority of the time you're going slower than marathon pace? When you're talking tempo, or you actually do them quicker than, because then you're getting into that threshold kind of zone.
Well, that's where it'll.
And if you're a 5-hour marathoner.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it definitely depends on how slow you are or how fast you are, but it also depends on how far you're going. So, this could be anything from 8K probably through to about 20 to 24K. I know you've got groups like the Hanson Brooks group or the Brooks, or whatever, they love to do longer ones. Like part of their deal is they do, I think it's a 28K race pace tempo, maybe a month before the race. They always travel to maybe even do it on the course. I think for me, that's too far. I reckon that's a little too stressful. I could never even do that based off like how I've got through even 16K of this. So 8 to 20K, we'll probably go around, or I've started to give more time frame tempo, so maybe like 40 minutes to 70 minutes at this intensity. As we get into the marathon phase, we try to aim for the same conditions as the race. So if your race is on asphalt and it's a pretty flat race and it's going to be kind of cold in the morning, then I want you to do this close to race conditions. A lot of this workout is a mental conditioning just as much as it is physical conditioning. So it teaches, for me, I know if I'm running long tempos well, I'm in a good mind frame, headspace around my pace, and obviously the fitness is there to back it up if everything feels good. So it teaches me patience. I get a chance to practice my mental strategies, so when things might get a little tough or I get a little bored or I start to lose focus, if it's a 60-minute tempo, I lose focus around 40 minutes. It's a good chance to practice what to do, find rhythm, and also dealing with fatigue. So having this, you might do this workout. I often give it 2 weeks before someone hits their marathon phase, and they'll run 16K at marathon pace, or what I consider maybe their marathon pace might be. It might be a bit slower, it might be a bit faster. And because they're not really that fatigued, because they haven't hit the marathon sort of block where they're going to be doing big workouts, probably a little bit more mileage. Their long runs are going longer. Everything gets a little more tiring. It's often like a fast. They often run that faster than what they do maybe a month out from the race if they do the same workout, because they're a lot fresher then. But there's a lot of benefit to running these when you are tired, because instead of it feeling like the first 16K of the race, which it might do when you haven't hit the marathon block yet, doing it late or doing it when you're tired or fatigued after having 8 weeks of marathon training in your legs, it simulates later in the race feels, and you're doing it on tired legs, and you're having to work that little bit harder. You have to deal with that more fatigue, and to me it's like mentally you probably won't go faster than what you did way back, which is a bit of an ego kick or a bit of an ego slap for some people, but it's quite good.
You know where it can be a trap though there, that people do this pre-marathon build-up. So they do 16K at like 3:20 pace, and they're like, oh, I'm going to smash like 2:20 for a marathon. And then they do this 3 weeks out from their marathon, and they run the same thing at, 3:22, 3:24, and they lose a bit of confidence. So then they start flogging themselves to be like, I need that confidence boost to know I can do this in training, and not understanding all that stuff you just spoke about.
Well, that's where the coach comes in.
Yeah.
So, it's a trap for someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but I've always found that. I've always found long tempos a lot easier outside of marathon training.
Yeah, same.
But then, chuck
almost
it in
surprisingly easier. You're like, I didn't think that was going to roll out today.
Yeah, I know. And I like when I did the first one of these, when Gary Town was coaching me at Chico, I was horrible. I blew up at about 12K. I was fucked. And I got back and I thought, okay, I need to do these. I did a second one while I was over there, did it with a mate. We ran way slower, and I got a little bit of confidence back, but it wasn't impressive. It was real slow. And then came back and I started doing them regularly. And I only started to nail these long tempos when I started to marathon well. And I feel like it was a really strong link between the two, because it is the same sort of like physiology, really. Like you're working in that zone and you're getting good strength and rhythm, and mentally you're in a good place. I think it's a great workout. It's so simple, but it's a great workout.
You definitely need to be disciplined as well. And this is where I think the value of a coach, because you see so many people out there will do, I'm going to go and do a 10-mile tempo because that's what, back in the day, like marathoners, if you run basically 10 miles at marathon pace in training, you should be able to then do that for a race. But then what people do is they pretty much treat it like a 16K time trial, and they're rooted by the end of it. But then they go, oh, that's my marathon pace. And it's obviously not. So you should finish these obviously not completely cooked.
Yep.
Good stuff in there, fellas. What's coming up, Croaks, before we go to the interview? What's happening in your life? Last week of school holidays?
Yeah, last week of school holidays. Not too much. No, I don't think I've got anything planned really this week.
Sounds good. Should do an interview for me. Get one banked.
Yeah, that'd be it.
What about that one we're talking about off air last week? She had a win. She had a win on the weekend too. Did you see that?
Yeah, I'll have to contact her.
Yeah, that'd be good from you. Give me something to listen to while I'm jogging. Moose, what are you doing?
I got this appointment tomorrow actually with a practitioner in Melbourne, a bit of an out of the box thinker around injuries. So got to go in with an open mind.
Bit of voodoo magic. Put a couple of spices or something on the knee. Crack some pepper on it.
He helped Mona with a few things. That's his sell point. That's a big thing for him. Everyone's told me, he helped Mona. So I asked Mona about him. Said, yep, go see him, see what he thinks. Listen to him, decide if you like it or not, and away you go. I'm real skeptical of stuff like this, so I'll be going in with an open mind. I have to practice that.
That's good. You know what I'm going to be doing this weekend?
Media.
Oh no, I'm going to be sitting back. I'm going to download the Hamburg Marathon app, and I'm going to watch two of the biggest dogs I know go around over there in Hamburg. Andy Buchanan and Christian from Norway, both on the same start list this weekend. So get excited. The cat's out of the bag. That's the one the big dog's doing.
Yeah, well, about time he fucking said. Did he say that or what? You're allowed to say now, are you?
Yeah, it gave me permission. Said open the gates.
Gee, he fucking thinks he's a king, doesn't he?
He hasn't posted it though, has he, anyway?
Not yet. He said we can have the exclusive announcement of it.
Bloke's never run a marathon and thinks everyone in Australia is waiting on his every move as to what to do.
What's he going to run, Brady?
No idea. It's always hard to pick the debut, isn't it? Always hard to pick the debut. These are things that work well in his favour. Good cross-country runners make good marathoners. Andy Buchanan's been training for marathons when he didn't even know marathons existed. He's a mountain goat in Bendigo there, loves the hills. He's a strength runner. Beast Cook. Yeah, and a very good marathon runner. Won Wangaratta a couple of weeks ago, the beast.
25 man.
So what's he going to run? He's a 62 guy. Double that, 64. Add 6 minutes. Ooh, could see a 2:10, 2:11, boys. Don't be surprised if you see it. What's Jeff Hunt's debut record?
2:11 flat.
There'd be a pace going 2:11:30, won't there? You'd think so for the Olympic qualifier or the World Champs qualifying time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't know, it's hard to pick the debut one, but I wish him the best as a fellow Bendigo Bat team member, as I'm sure you do as well, Bradley.
Yeah. And also good luck to Christian.
Yeah, big Christian as well.
Hopefully he gets to the finish line.
Nails this one. And then the other bit of news I have here as well that we're starting to put together, actually I should have spoken to you, Moose, about this before I said this, the Gold Coast Marathon weekend live show up there on the Gold Coast, first week of July. Bradley's booked his flights and accommodation. I've also sorted mine, Julian. Zach is on to me today about getting things organised. So,
wait, where are we staying then?
I don't know. Carly's booked ours, actually. Where are you staying, correct? Somewhere up there?
Yeah, I'm staying in Surface.
Surface Paradise, Moose.
Yeah. I have to use the credit card on this one, boys.
You and Bree?
Have to use the Inside Running credit card.
Hey, you're got heaps of money. You're the richest bloke on this show.
No,
Businessman.
Just stop buying bikes.
Bike
You'll
parks.
be right.
How am I going to get the bike up there?
Kids fly free too, under 2. You're right.
You'll be flying by then, Moose.
Yeah,
you'll be back in 2:14 shape.
Look, I got a few athletes out there. It'd be good to go and support them.
Yeah.
Tax deduction.
It's a very good weekend. It's the best weekend on the Australian distance running calendar, I'd say.
Yeah.
So planning, Croaks has
send the invoice in.
Croaks has got the venue sorted, we think. We're going to try and use the same venue we had locked in last year until it got cancelled. And then we'll do some work there. So we will give the Patreon supporters a free shot of those tickets because they're usually pretty limited before we open it up to the public. But we should have some more details about that in the coming weeks because it is going to roll around quickly, fellas. It's not long to the Gold Coast.
Was it like 10 weeks? 10 or 11?
Yeah, something like that. Was it 11 yesterday or 12 yesterday? Well,
I think it was 11. I think it was 11 yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was 11 yesterday. So some marathoners starting to get serious for that race. All right, boys, we're done. Nothing else we need to talk about before we finish?
Nothing, we're good.
$5 thing. $5 sign up. You get the road to New York.
Yep.
Not bad, that.
Only for people that sign up between now and the end of April.
Yeah, that's not long. That's 11 days. You better sign up.
11 days. If you sign up in that window, you get, I think there's about 8 episodes access. $5. Come on. I know it's, depends your financial situation, but hopefully what we're putting out a month is worth $5, worth a capsicum. Red capsicum Croaks, that's what you told me, didn't you?
Yeah, they're the most expensive ones.
They're the ones, but they're not actually that expensive. They're only $5. Anyway, see you, boys.
Yep, see ya.
The 30th Annual Brisbane Marathon Festival is coming up on Sunday the 5th of June and will be a sellout event with 8,000 runners. With a distance for all ages and abilities, full, half, 10k, 5k run, 5k walk and 2k mini marathon on offer, this iconic Brisbane event is not to be missed. Half, full and 10k participants get a free 2022 limited edition 30-year anniversary tee included in their entry fee. Enter now at brisbanemarathon.com.au to beat the price increase. Early bird discounts end at midnight on the 27th of April.
But here I stand, a man whose roots he understands, and I'm gonna hold my head up high. I was told as a young man, doesn't matter if you're white or black.
All right, this week's guest on the Inside Running podcast is currently one of Australia's biggest names in Australian distance running. He recently finished 5th at the World Indoor Championships and last weekend became the Australian 1,500 metre champion. and secured his spot for the upcoming World Championships and Commonwealth Games. Since signing a pro contract with On in 2020, he has set 3 national and Oceania records over the 1500, the mile, and the 5K indoors. This week's guest is also the star of the Coffee Club podcast and the On Athletes Club, coached by Dathan Ritzenheim. Welcome to the Inside Running podcast, and thanks for giving up some time, Olli Hoare.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's been we've been a name we've been trying to hunt down for a while. We've been going for 230 episodes, and you've been on our hit list for a while. So we're grateful you made some time available, and then we could pull it off just before you fly home.
No, thank you very much for having me. 230 episodes, that's a lot. Congratulations, that's pretty sick.
We had your mate Josh Kerr on a couple of weeks ago. You got a couple of mentions in that interview. Luke Matthews does a few interviews for us, and he interviewed him, and your name came up quite a lot, which was good. So maybe I'll pick your brain a bit later. All things Josh Kerr related. So thanks for giving up some time. And how's things? Like, you're back in Australia. I think you've only been back once since the pandemic happened, and I'm sure it's pretty valuable time for you with your family and stuff like that, because you don't get back often.
No, I haven't. It's been tough. I know a lot of people have been affected by it in different ways, but for me, particularly, I was going through that transition of getting a visa, so I had to do that 2-week quarantine. I had to kind of force to leave the United States and secure a visa in Australia, then head straight back to America. So it wasn't much of a time to kind of spend some time with the family. And then this time around, it was much more of a business trip too, because of national championships and being able to get in a lot easier without doing the quarantine, being fully vaxxed and having a negative COVID test. So for me, it was much more a business trip, but then I got some time with the family afterwards, which was extremely vital, considering I hadn't spent a lot of time with them. It had been 2 years, and a lot has happened in that 2 years. I know at the Olympics and a lot of other achievements that I haven't been able to kind of sit down and celebrate with the family in person. So being able to be home and enjoy that was an absolute privilege, and it was great to be able to compete at national championships as well. That was awesome. So overall, it's been a great trip, and the only unfortunate thing, as I know, is the weather. The rain's been shocking here. Like sunny day here right now, but it's been a shocking weather for a lot of Australians, and I know they're sick of it. So it wasn't great weather, but it was nice to be home with family and enjoy their company and just kind of refresh and rewind about everything that's been going on in my life the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's been pretty much raining every day you've been back, I think. Sydney's been copping it big time. And the national champs last weekend, you'd have to be stoked with that. Like, that last 800, 148 closed it in. Ramsden was still there. Like, I'm not sure if people give him enough credit, because I rewatched it today doing a bit of research for this. Like, your last 800 gets all the headlines, but it was pretty close to you in the end.
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing that will happen. Like, a person that wins the race will mostly get that kind of headline, like, oh, he closed in this and he closed in that. But if you look at a lot of the results, particularly the top 5 or 6 guys in that race probably closed in 151, 152, which is really impressive in championship racing. And Rainbow really wanted that win, and he worked hard, and it was a tough fought race. And it's pretty awesome, because to be able to close in that kind of race, that's like world championship type of racing, and to have that at a national championships is pretty exciting. And it shows our depth in the event, even without, unfortunately, Stewie and John not being able to compete. The depth, it just shows being able to have those kind of guys, and Rainbow was definitely there, and it's going to be exciting to see what he does in the coming year, this season.
And was that the plan going in, that you'd push from 800, or like, was it wait and see? Like, what was going through your head, and what did the coach tell you beforehand?
Yeah, Ritz and I had a chat about it, and it was technically, like, I actually textbook hit the plan to key. The plan was to go from 800 out. I think from what I learned and watching the race last year, Jai Edwards, man, like, amazing race. Probably one of the most exciting races the Australian Championships has ever seen. Two Titans fighting it out. And for me, I was watching that race and I was like, I don't really want to lead any guys to the standard. And that's what Stewie did. I think Stewie wanted to go out hard and says, if you're going to beat me, it's going to hurt. And, and Jai was ready for it and slingshotted himself to running an amazing time and winning a national championship in an Olympic year, which is incredible. For me and Dathan, we kind of talked about it and said, well, you're coming off a great race in Serbia. You're fifth at the World Indoor Champs is a great achievement, and I think that's a testament to where you are fitness wise, but also where you are strength wise and knowing how to race. So for us, it was about not letting it go too quick, but also trying to really close it down. If the weather was good, which it fortunately was, we had good weather that night, was to kind of take the lead and start to wind it down and just really put the pump on and try and hurt people to run that kind of quick. And I knew Rambo was going to be there. I knew I probably wasn't going going to break him from it. It was just more about hopefully holding that gap and to keep pushing along, because I knew the strength was there for my training. So Ritz and I talked about that. We knew that the competition was going to be fierce, and we were able to deliver on that type of race. And it's nice to be able to have a race like that, and you have a plan and it works out. It was really, really nice to have that situation. Also compete in a home crowd and a home stadium. I'm a Sydney boy, so it was just ticking all the boxes. Really, it was fantastic. Got to race in front of my parents, which I hadn't done in about 7 years. So really exciting time, and it was nice to check those boxes off and be able to compete the way I kind of planned it to go.
Yeah, because this was your first national track and field championship. Like, it feels like we've been saying your name now for the last 3 or 4, 5 years and stuff, and you've been on everyone's radar, and then the Olympics and stuff, which we'll talk about. But to think that you've never raced in an Australian Open Championship is pretty amazing. And then you come out and win one. And you use the term business trip. Like, I guess comparing this qualification period to the Olympics, where you didn't come back and there was all the stuff on the project and kind of got a bit of mainstream attention here, which was good to see, athletics kind of on people's TVs and stuff. But was this time all about what we can control? Let's tick it. Obviously a different climate with the COVID restrictions, but it was very much like, let's tick the boxes we can and get ourselves on the team early.
Yeah, that's definitely it. There's an opportunity. There's one spot there to take. And if everything's going well, which it was for me, I competed well in both indoors. I've been having a good lead up this indoor season, and I'm in good shape. You want to tick that box. Like, for me, with those restrictions, I couldn't do it last year. And like with Stewie and with Jai, like when things don't go to play, you want to look after yourself and make sure, okay, this is going to be the best opportunity for me to make the team. I need to recoup, reassess, and go for it in another option, which might be harder, might be more challenging, but everything was aligning for me. So I wanted to make sure I came back, and be able to compete in national championships is a privilege. It's not a right. So to be able to do it and to have fun with it, I think was a really important thing for me. It was my first Open Nationals. So for me, I was all about just the experience. I mean, I kind of felt like I skipped a step a little bit, because competing at the Olympics, being able to represent Australia in that kind of setting was such a huge part of my career to kind of learn and adapt and absorb. And to go through Australian Open Championships was something that I was nervous for. I was nervous in the heat. I was nervous in the final, because it's such a different experience competing against some of the best in Australia. So it was an amazing opportunity, and I 100% took it. And I know, that was the one thing that I really wanted to tick that box with. And Ritz and I were like, yeah, we're going. If it does not going to inflict with world indoors and you can get in and everything's going smoothly, we're 100% going. So it was exciting.
Yeah, and I heard you guys talking about it on your podcast, and I was a bit surprised how much you guys rated Australian nationals, because you come from that American system and everything's bigger over there, and you're very much in that American system kind of set up, and Morgan kind of made a couple of examples to kind of mention that this is really important and this is a big deal. And hearing you guys talk about it as an Australian and someone who's so in this Australian bubble was really kind of cool to listen to. So then I guess what's next? Like, we're a week on from the race. Do you have a down week before you go back? Because it's hard to kind of manage you can't stay up the whole season, I guess. And our season's opposite to America and Europe and all those kind of things. So what's training look like at the moment? And then what's going to happen the next couple of months?
Yeah, this week's been pretty chill. Obviously keeping a lot of strength work and a lot of mileage still in there, but nothing out of nothing crazy. I mean, the weather's been kind of terrible too. So you don't want to push something, slip over and hurt yourself at this point in time. So for me, it's just about keeping the mileage going, chipping away. I'll head back to the United States, get a bit of training in up there, and then I'll head to a couple of races around the Diamond League circuit just to get that experience, compete against some of the best, and really absorb a lot of that racing. And I know a lot of the other Aussie boys will do the same, because I think right now leading up to Worlds, you want to be, you're also, in great shape, but really it's about that race fitness, knowing how to race these guys, knowing what they're currently doing and how they're feeling. And, losing races or winning races, you're kind of getting a lot of insight into how it's going to lead into Worlds in Eugene. And for me, that's kind of the step I'm going to take now, is I've got my ticket. And it's a great feeling to have that, but also it's a lot of, now it's time to do the research about, competing against not just Australians, but all the international guys, seeing how they're doing, seeing how I'm doing against them. And then there'll be good, insight to learn leading into those races later on, those big championship races.
Yeah. And I assume you're committed for both of them, Com Games as well as World Champs?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And no, obviously, some Com Games events, it's a bit easier to pick up medals, but there's no cheap medals when you're running a 1500 against those guys. So there's plenty of competition out there.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like, look at the UK alone. I mean, Wales, Scotland, and England all have incredible runners. Scotland in particular, talking about Josh Kerr, like Jake Whiteman, Charlie Grice for England, and for Wales, Jake Haywood. So, like, there's some really good talent there just in the UK, and then you've got all the Uganda. You've got a lot of other Australian runners coming through, Canada. So it's going to be a pretty sought after track and field, and it's going to be exciting. So, particularly being in the UK, the UK athletes are going to be rising up to the occasion, and it's going to be nice to come over there and hopefully run on the parade.
Yeah, and Kenya. I don't think you mentioned Kenya there, but
Kenya,
they're pretty handy.
Too. They do all right. They do all right, yeah.
And then I'm interested because I watched a couple of your YouTube things about your team building and the culture you've kind of created over there. What was it like coming here and kind of losing that? I'm sure, like, with technology and stuff, it's good, but you seem so tight-knit over there in your training group and your support system. Like, what's it been like not having those guys and girls for the last 2 weeks?
Oh, it's been tough. I mean, they've been great. They've been following everything. I mean, Dathan woke up at 2:20 a.m. to watch the race, and they kind of all did too and sent me nice messages. And obviously with Coffee Club, Geordie's a Kiwi and Morgan's Australian, so they kind of understand what it's like to kind of be away from that environment, and they've been very supportive and been fantastic with it. It's been sad not having them around, not having them for training, but it's also been nice because I've been able to reconnect with a lot of the Australian running scene that you're not able to physically be there, and being able to come back and be a part of it. It does feel like you've kind of missed a step, but everything's the same, and you've been able to kind of see how everyone's doing, and that's been fantastic too. So there's kind of ups and downs with it all, but to be back in the Australian community in particular with track and field has been fantastic, because right now I think Australian track and field is just at an amazing place. And the athletes, not just in my event, but every event on that list, have been doing incredible things. So to be able to be a part of that and see it, it's been fantastic.
And do you keep track of it? There's because I listen to you guys talk about the NCAA system. Everyone and everything over there. Like, are you the same with the Australian system? Who's coming through and who's doing what and all those kind of things? Or you lose a bit of touch?
Yeah, we lose a bit of touch. It's a bit hard sometimes. We lose a bit of touch, but we're able to kind of, particularly with results and seeing a lot of the meets that are coming through with Athletics Australia, which is fantastic. We're able to kind of keep in touch with a lot of that sort of stuff, particularly with our events. With other events that aren't this middle distance or distance related, we kind of lose track a little bit, but sometimes it comes back when we see results. Social media has been fantastic with that. We've been able to follow it with Twitter or Instagram and be able to keep in touch with things, like seeing a lot of those Olympians, Matt Denny, Liz Clay, just sort of out of event people doing so well. It's been nice to follow them and track them as well, because I mean, the way we know running is middle distance and distance. We have that kind of thing, and we're lucky and fortunate that the same time zone, the same kind of area, and televised too, is the NCAA. So for us, it's been able to good to track that and also be able to follow Australians there and support them there, because when you kind of go overseas and it's just such a different time zone, it's very, very hard to track it all the time. It's nice to kind of follow them and give them support, like kind of right on the time. Whereas Athletics Australia has been fantastic right now and been able to cover that as well. So it's been cool to cover, and it's just Australians are doing well everywhere. So it kind of gets overwhelming at some points, because you see a lot of Australians just killing it. And I think the Americans in particular in the NCAA system are going, oh no, this is an Australian, they're probably going to do well. So it's exciting to see that. And it's been good to follow NCAA wise, but I feel like we lose a little bit of touch, but we're trying to get it back. And social media has been a fantastic resource for us to be able to catch up with it, and also see the up and coming juniors that are coming through and racing well, like Jude Thomas winning the Open 3K. Like, that was pretty awesome to see. And I was excited to see him in his first Open race in the 1500. And it's going to be awesome to see what he does in the future. So being able to follow those kind of guys that are coming through, it's exciting.
Yeah, even like Cal Davies, who was third in your race, like, he's been around knocking on the door for a while, and a couple of guys not there, and all of a sudden he's on the podium. Like, it's good to see those younger fellas coming through. And then take me back to the decision to go to college. Like, he's had some impressive junior results here. I understand you're a pretty good swimmer. Like, was there ever a decision to maybe pursue swimming or triathlon or anything like that, if you had the swimming kind of motor there as well? And then, what kind of led to the move over to the States?
Yeah, the triathlon thing had been pushed a little bit. My dad's got a couple of mates in triathlon, Greg Welsh and Crowe, who are big triathlon guys, and they were kind of pushing that. But triathlon's kind of a hard sport to get into with college, and swimming was kind of tough too. I wasn't like as good as I could probably be when I was coming to my running. It was definitely a much easier transition for me, but it's still tough. I mean, to get into college, it was hard because academically you had to be kind of there as well. And the college I wanted to go to was a pretty sought after college, not just for sport, but academically as well. Morgan McDonald was a guy that was already there. So I was able to have that connection. I was very, very fortunate. And he had that tap in resource. And for my decision really was to be able to do both. I know it's a tough situation sometimes, particularly with a lot of athletes in Australia, that they're pursuing their dreams with not just their running, but with their education. And sometimes the education can be overwhelming. And you want to be obviously very focused on that, because that is predominantly going to be your future. Your career in running might last, maybe if you're lucky, 10 years or so, or even more. But at the end of the day, you're going to be getting a career in the future, and you want to be able to have that education and be able to be, reliant in the workforce. So for me, it was a big deal to be able to. I think the NCAA system was able to kind of support that both. You do education; it's important, but you're also able to kind of get looked after with your running and your track. And that was a big situation for me. Like, my parents didn't have to pay for it for college, and that was a big help for them to obviously put my brother through university as well here in Australia. So those two were big fundamental decisions. And also I saw Morgan's success, not just in the classroom, but also on the track. And I know a lot of Australians now, if there was an option for them, obviously it doesn't work for everyone, but if it's an option for them, they can look into it now. And I feel like a lot of Australians are looking at that option and seeing it and seeing if it's the best fit for them, because some Australians do very well, like Julian and Rambo, a lot of others, they do well here at home and they get their education, whether it's online classes or going into lectures and being able to train as well. They're able to do that. Or some athletes or some individuals, are able to go to college and able to kind of have that college experience and that independence as well, being away from Australia. So I think it's a great option to have for a lot of Australians. It doesn't work for everyone, but it's a good thing to look into if you're interested in it. And that was something for me that kind of worked and clicked, and it gave me the results that I needed to hopefully progress not just my education, but my running as well.
Yeah, and obviously having Morgan's footsteps to follow in,
Yeah.
and you've become so close and stuff. And then it just sounds like it was a perfect kind of training ground, I guess, for you with that title. Was it 2018 when you won as a sophomore?
Yeah, sophomore in
yeah.
Eugene, yeah.
Yeah, I watched that race again last night as well. Like, you come from the clouds a bit, like you're boxed in and in a bit of trouble, and everyone's banging. Like, the commentators can't even pronounce your name properly. And
the Americans have a problem with that.
They just don't like the word whore, isn't it? Like, they
don't like. It was Hoare or Jose or all that sort of stuff. And there's like, they're trying to say, "Oh, we're sorry, but how do you pronounce your name?" And I said, "It's like Lady of the Night. Just pronounce it as Hoare." They never have an issue in Australia, but they got better with it eventually. But yeah, that was a big a jump through for me. I think I started getting some confidence from that and thought, I could pursue this. This could be something that I could hopefully one day get to that level of either representing my country or being a competitive force in Australian middle distance running.
And then you come out of college at an interesting time, because was it just pre-COVID or just after COVID? Was it 2020, 2019?
2019, yeah, COVID hit. I still have one more semester to go of college. So I was still in college. So I missed out on my indoor season and outdoor season as my senior year. I was looking at, because I never redshirted. I was very fortunate that I never had any issues, and I just kind of went through it in college. I wanted to go and do a fifth year and do a master's program with Wisconsin, but the financials and the situation, no one knew what was going to happen with COVID. No one had a crystal ball, and they were worried about the financials leading into it, particularly with no more football, no more basketball, a lot of the funding coming from there to support these athletes. They thought, well, you got your degree, you're good enough to go pro, so we're not going to offer that situation for you. And it was a tough situation for me, because it was either going home and trying to pursue something in Australia, or sign with an agency in the States and hopefully get a contract that can support me there and see where it goes during a COVID. So it was a very, particularly for everyone, but for me, particularly coming out of college, was a very stressful time, but also I didn't know what was going to happen. I really had no idea where my running career was going to take me, if I was going to stay in the States or have to come home. So it was very up and down. And then I was able to sign with Ray Flynn, and he gave me an opportunity to look at On Running, which was a very, very young company at the time. I didn't even know who On Running was until I started talking to them, and they were very passionate and had a lot of aspirations and a lot of goals that you weren't sure that they were going to hit. They had a lot of big talking points, and you think, well, are they going to deliver with this? Is it going to happen? And it was kind of a risk-taking moment. And I thought, well, COVID's hit. I don't have many other options. Let's go with it. Let's run the dice. So, I went after it, and then, it just kind of went from there.
And is it true, this could be bullshit, but is it true that you didn't know who Dathan and Andrew Weeding, who works for On as well? Like they were the two guys who were On were presenting, like, this is who you're going to be working with, and you still didn't know who both of those are and you still rolled the dice?
Yeah, no, I was a bit naive. I was very naive. I didn't know who. I found out who Weeding was afterwards, because Weeding called me and he told me who he was, and then I looked him up and I was like, oh shit, this is Andrew Weeding. Amazing, talented runner. But with Dathan, I didn't know who Dathan was either. And I had a couple Michigan roommates, and I said to them, oh, they're looking at this coach called Dathan Ritzenheim. Do you guys know who he is? And I kid you not, a beer can went flying from my head and I had to duck, because one of the Michigan guys, like, you cannot be serious. You don't know who this guy was. He's a legend, particularly with high school runners, because of the insane high school career he had and everything like that. So I looked him up, and then I saw his credentials and everything. He's been coaching one of my teammates, Leah Fallon, and a couple others for quite a while, and with a Hoka group called Gazelle Sports in Michigan. So I had a phone call with him, and it was kind of an instant click, because the problems I had with Dathan was, like, he was very much a marathon distance endurance runner. I was like, look, I want to be a low 330, 1500 meter runner. Like, I'm also a foreigner. Like, how are you going to coach me? And he kind of was able to reminisce to his time. He actually volunteer coached at University of Oregon, and was able to kind of see what Matt Senchowitz was doing at the time, and then Weeding too, being able to, like, kind of follow them and see what their training was like. And I was like, well, that's a good answer to that question. So yeah, it was kind of a risk with those two. Not knowing them as I should have known them. As a fan of the sport, that's a big cardinal sin. But yeah, it was kind of, because Dathan was a young coach at the time too, and didn't really have the resume of some other coaches that were coaching currently in the pro world. But Dathan was making his mark, and he was retiring from running and wanted to get into the coaching scene 100%. And his commitment was seen. I mean, he was in Michigan. He had to move his family, his very young family, all the way out to Boulder, Colorado. So he had a commitment there, and I knew I had to make a commitment too. So there was this mutual agreement, not just from athlete and coach, but the whole, like, kind of group is like, we're making this step, we're making this progression with a young brand. We kind of want to make a statement that we're going to be a force that's not going to be around for just 1 or 2 years. We want to be around for decades, and hopefully build something up and have another, competitive group in there with another brand. So that was kind of the pitch for them, and I was excited about that, to be a part of something that's so young and kind of develop it and hopefully progress it in a good image and get people excited about it. That was the goal initially.
You must be so pleased with how far, like, it's ridiculous how far it's grown, your reach as a unit, but also your results, like the US trials we saw at first, and then obviously you got on the team, and Klecker and now Morgan's, like, moved there a couple of years in as well. Like, you must sit back now with those, look at those initial conversations about potentially signing with this brand to create this thing, and now look back at it only a short period of time and be like, wow, we're doing all right with our legs, and we're also doing all right with our feet, like your feet and running your mouth, and kind of building that community, I guess, and following.
Yeah, no, it's been, it's sometimes you pinch yourself, because particularly after a year of the group being together, we had 5 Olympians.
Yeah.
And for that's just a tremendous testament to the athletes as well as the coach, but also the system. Like, On's done a great job of picking the right people, but also making sure that everyone is able to get what they need out of what they want to achieve. And I think Joe and Alicia in particular, being Americans, like, it's so hard to make those teams, and there's so much pressure and everything that's building up towards it. And the way that they've handled it, it just shows that their maturity is there as well to be able to represent their countries. And Morgan and I as well, we just want to do the best we could for our nation, but also for the brands. And it's just been a fantastic whirlwind of events to be able to go from a year ago, people going, oh, what's that brand, to then people going, oh, that's On, that's OAC. It's a great feeling, because I feel like we've been a big part of that, and hopefully building up a brand that's still learning about the running environment. They're still building shoes, and they're still really, really enthusiastic and working with the athletes and saying, like, we've got this shoe. It's not the best shoe we have yet, but we want to make it better. And they're getting all these new ideas and new aspirations. And On has just made a huge jump. And it's really exciting to be a part of that jump, and also work with these amazing people who are passionate and want to kind of push this brand to hopefully the heights that we want to be, at the top with the best. And that's what we've been doing right now with our feet, and we've been pushing the brand as well. And it's nice to be seeing that like the brand's getting more recognized, and it's been put into that conversation with track athletes competing and representing a brand like that. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and the culture around the training group, like, did Dathan sit you guys down and have like conversations or come up with mission statements, or like that stuff doesn't really happen that quick? Like it's, I work in schools and school leadership and stuff, and you kind of try and always create that with your staff. And now you look at what you guys have done, and it's like the buy-ins there. You guys seem to really idolize Dathan. He seems to really idolize you guys. You seem very tight. His style of leadership, I think, is something that we don't see a lot in track and field coaches. Like, he seems really empathetic, and he'd take a bullet for you kind of guys. And I think you guys would the same for him. Like, maybe talk about that kind of relationship.
Yeah, it's crazy because Dathan puts so much into the team, his effort, and he acts like a volunteer coach.
Yeah,
like a coach that's like trying to get into it. He acts like that all the time. The amount of effort he doesn't, not just he puts into athletes that are doing really well, but to the athletes that are struggling with injuries and stuff. Like, he'll book stuff, he'll book fights, he'll try and be there with them 100% of the way, learn about stuff. And Dathan's like, he's a guy that understands that he's so young in coaching that he can take in a lot of information to and be like, oh, okay, so this is how this is working. And we're learning stuff together. And it's always a two-way street, the athlete to coach too. He's been great with that. And it's been fantastic. Like, the culture there is a testament to the athletes there as well. It's been absolute fun. It doesn't feel like at all that we're like going through hard stuff. It's always a whirlwind of fun, and adding in Morgan to the equation is always going to be good. But yeah, it's really hard to kind of get that kind of culture. And I know Dathan found that very important, because I think when he was at the project, he didn't like the culture there. Like, it was probably the best team in the world that had all these amazing athletes, but the culture there was terrible. I think he wasn't having a good time there, and people were struggling. And when he left to pursue with Brooks Hansons, he found that the group wasn't at that kind of level of Olympic medalists, but they would do anything for you. They would take the shirt off their back for you. And a lot of them worked in running stores and were just the lovers of the sport. And Dathan realized that, like, he wanted the best of both worlds. He wanted the best athletes in the world, but he wanted to have that mutual respect from not just the top guy, but for the guy that's struggling with injury and trying to get back into that level. So the way Dathan kind of has that mentality is fantastic. And particularly the way in which, like, I mean, most of my teammates were watching my races in Australia when Leah or any of the other girls are racing overseas or in the States. We always have it on the TV, and we video it, and we show them that we're invested in them, because when they have results and see success, we feel like that's also our success, because we have a part of that, because we're there with them training, we help them with pacing or anything like that. So and I know that culture is important, and I know a lot of other groups are trying to get that, but we've just been very fortunate with the people that we're with. We're all on the same page, and Dathan's just projecting that kind of idea of, like, we're a part of a family, and running is an individual sport, and we always give the best athletes, like, their opportunities to succeed, and we give them that space, but we also realize and understand that, like, we all bring each other up. So he's done an amazing job with that. And and the athletes too, they're like, all the OAC people are just lovely, and it's great to have that kind of environment to kind of grow with. And I think it's a testament to the success that's come through on the result page as well.
But then, you guys have got to take some credit, because the accessibility, like with you guys doing, you're doing the podcast off your own back. I'm sure, like, that's kind of an independent kind of thing, you, George and Morgan, and then the video kind of stuff that we see from Morgan as well. Like, is that all him running that and pushing that? And like, you guys are just, kind of like the features on it, or who comes up with these ideas? Because it's easy to get fans when you do that stuff. Like, I'm sitting here 100%. In country Victoria, I have a town of 20,000, and I feel like I know you guys so well. And every time you're racing, I'm yelling at the TV. I've got buy-in as a 35-year-old sitting in country Australia.
Yeah, no, it's mostly come from Morgan, George, and myself. Morgan does a lot of the work with the YouTube, the creative thing, but we always give him input and insights. Like, he thinks about stuff like songs or memes, or put things in that's kind of relevant. But it's more or less like we have a very unique opportunity, particularly as runners, like professionally in the States. We have a unique opportunity to show people what it's like, but also to give them an insight of like what we do, and kind of show them like what it's like to be in our situation, which I think isn't shown a lot, particularly with our podcast. We kind of talk about like our experiences. Like, not every experience is great. I mean, Morgan's been dealing with some tough injuries. Geordie's been dealing with some tough injuries. Like, sometimes things don't always go to plan, and we kind of try and show that and portray it. And Morgan also likes to have fun with training and put everyone in feature in it. And Dathan loves that, because I think for him, he loves to be able to portray the life of what we do, but also to be able to show them like, this is what actually happens. Like, this may be things don't go the right way or things go the right way, and where we train and what happens is an exciting part of running. And it's something that we kind of wanted to show and be a part. We want people to buy in. And with podcasting too, like, it's a free content that we hopefully show and people enjoy, and people feel a part of our journey and our success, and they can enjoy it and be a part of it. So Morgan is a big testament to that, but Geordie and I also try and help him with it. With Coffee Club in particular, we felt that, particularly as Oceania boys, as you probably know, we love our coffee. Australians love their coffee. And the coffee in America is okay, but it's not up to that Australian standard or New Zealand standard. So we thought it would be fun to kind of make a Coffee Club group and feel like, you guys can listen to our pod if you're doing work or you just want some background noise, have a coffee and just kind of sit and listen to the sport and see what's going on. And we try and get guests on to have kind of their unique perspectives on everything. So it's been fantastic. And we've been, trying to get the beans out, get people invested in having good quality coffee as well. It's something that we've been pretty passionate about. And it's been a great kind of outlet as well to show not just our stories, but the stories of the team. And Dathan's all about it. He loves showing that sort of stuff. And he as an American, his sense of humor might be a bit different to ours. At some points, he's like, "What are you guys doing? Are you guys idiots?" And I was like, "Yeah, we are idiots, but this is what people want to see." So he kind of loves that, but he also learns a bit about Australian culture and New Zealand culture, which I think for him is exciting because he likes kind of that nuance that we have here. And he's like, "Oh, this is different. I'm enjoying it." So yeah, it's been great. It's been a whirlwind, and we've really, really loved doing it.
And I think the problem with our sport, and I'm sure you agree, is we have a lack of personalities. Like everyone's real straight shooters. Especially we say on the podcast at times, especially when you do an hour interview, people just straight batten answers for an hour. Like, this is what I've got to say. Stay away from controversial stuff. Whereas you're pretty brash on there, and you don't mind, calling people out or swearing or whatever it is. And I think it's great because we need more of that in sport, like more rivalries and more kind of like trash talking. And then you get on the track and you can, sort out on there.
Yeah, 100%. I think Josh Kerr, like he has his Sit and Kick podcast with David Ribich, and they're a great testament to that too, and I give them a lot of credit for it. And we get the rivalry going, we get the bash, and people get invested, whether they're Josh Kerr fans, Olli Hoare fans, or David Ribich fans, or Geordie Beamish fans. They get invested, and there's a bit of a clash, and it makes it exciting because then the races come, and not always the same guy wins, not always the same guys on top. And I think a lot of people have been using the same example. I know Seb Coe, who is the head of athletics, and has been talking about it, but like the Drive to Survive, like Formula One's right now in Melbourne. It's apparently the most crowds they've ever had. And I think that's a testament to Drive to Survive, the Netflix show, because you're showing personalities like Daniel Ricciardo, like George Russell, like Lewis Hamilton, and not just the top, but you're showing, the Haas guys, you're showing a lot of the guys that are like, fighting for points and have their own little battles and rivalries. You can have that in track and field too. And I think just having that content and being able to portray it, it doesn't have to be completely impeding on all your personal stuff, but to be able to have that in the sport and the lead up and the training and the heartbreak, but the success and the reward and the emotional toll that it puts on people, I think that is a thing that we should invest in sport. And I think if track and field can somehow, not just in distance running, middle distance running, but in all sports, be able to kind of give a good story for the audience to indulge, you have a lot more fan base, and you'll see, I think as well, like it'll pop up more on the media, 7, 9, 10, those media outlets will start to show more of those events like Brisbane, the Brisbane track meet and stuff like that, people competing, people trying to get those achievements, people get invested in those stories. So if we find a way to do that with the media, it could be a fantastic thing for the sport and hopefully bring people up and give them a lot of recognition for what they're doing, because a lot of athletes who are doing fantastic things and have great stories are being left untold. And I'd love to learn those stories, because me, even in the sport, I don't know a lot of those stories. But it'd be awesome to be able to see them and be like, wow, that's great. Because then you can see that athlete in person, be like, their background, the emotional investment in there in their sport. So for us, like, we'd love to see that. Any interviews or any kind of, not just in our event, but in anything would be fantastic. And I think hopefully the push for that can come through and we can see a lot of background and hopefully bring in more fans.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Haven't watched one Formula One race, but I've watched 4 seasons of Drive to Survive. And, always been just like, there's going to be new results. I'll check that on my phone or whatever it is. Yeah. They've done such a good job of it. Hey, I want to talk more about your running and performances. 2021 was amazing. Like, I think I've got down here 10 1500s at 3:36 or quicker. Would that be right? Like it was just every time,
right.
every time you raced. And I think I had in there 3 wins, 2 seconds, a third, 2 fourths. Like that's including Olympic heats, semis, finals, all those kind of things. It was pretty insane 2021. Are there things you changed? And like, how did that transition happen from college runner into a pro group? Like so quickly, did Dathan do something in training, or was it self-belief, or what happened?
It was interesting because right when COVID hit, I was actually training very well with Coach Byrne, who's the head coach at Wisconsin. Like my training was actually at a really good spot where it's like, hey, you're going to like break through here. You're going to have a great season, indoor and outdoor. And unfortunately, it didn't go through. So we had to kind of sit in it and wait. And I think with a lot of athletes, not just me, like that amount of time you have training and just the build up of like the emotional toll of like, I want to race. I want to prove myself. I want to PR, whether you want to PR, race in a good race, try and win a race. It was all building up for a lot of people. So for me too, that was that build up. And then when I transitioned to Dathan's training was just another step level up from college training. And I did suffer from it for a couple of months. I struggled with a lot of the training. I was getting dropped quite quickly. But it was just a build up. I was also moved to altitude and I was a high responder. So that kind of affected my training too. And I was struggling with a lot of things, but then getting better. And it was also the fundamental belief. I mean, I think Dathan was seeing my training and a guy to me, he's saying like, hey, you can run this time, you can run this. We're going to put you we're going to pace the race. We're going to put you in this position. And people have to obviously, rise to that occasion. And I was able to rise to it in New York when I ran 3:32 and ran that Australian indoor record and beating Jake Whiteman, who's an incredible athlete in himself. To be able to do that, it gave me the confidence like, I can do this. I can be in this environment. And then from then on, we kind of wanted to make sure, like, obviously we had to be selected discretionary by a committee. We made that decision of like, okay, run as many 1500s as you can, run them as, under the standard as many times as you can. And then we'll get to Diamond Leagues, compete at the Diamond Leagues as best you can, getting second to Yucca, but at Gateshead was a big win for us. And also beating Stewie and Rambo, it just showed that, this guy can compete at the world stage if you're going to select a guy in that top 3. And I'm trying to hit those credentials so that they can look at him and say, hey, this guy can do it. We'll look through the credentials and see, can anybody beat him or match him? And then by the end of the year in Zurich, I was, I think, ranked 4th on World Athletics, which was an incredible experience coming from college to then. It was such a big jump, but it was just a belief and being able to obviously deal with the training, but also just being able to rise to the occasion of racing. I think for me as well, like it was a lot of racing too, which kind of wore me out a little bit, but it definitely gave me the environment to learn how to deal with external stress, just with everything going on, traveling or sitting in a hotel waiting for a race, like learning to be able to do other things and be invested in other things so your mind's not always switched on, particularly in Tokyo. And that was a great learning curve for me as well. And all that kind of stuff just helped me rise to the occasion, but also learn from what I was doing that year to hopefully progress it into 2022.
Yeah, the best thing I loved was the Instagram captions after every good performance. Just like, what are you still watching? Are you still paying attention?
Yeah.
It looked like a really good hint to AA just to make sure they were still keeping track of your results.
Keeping track of it, yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
That's 100% what it was. It was just like, hey, like I'm here, I'm racing over here. Just jot it down in your notebook, and then just let them know. I was like, I had this race and it was a good race. I just want you guys to make sure.
Yeah. Did you ever tag him in it? Should have just tagged him.
I think I tagged him in the Oregon one when I beat Donovan Brazier in the 15, and I ran 3:33 in terrible conditions. I tagged him and I was like, I hope he's paying attention.
Yeah.
Because I wanted them to okay, he's run that outdoors, he's done that. In that type of field, he's got good points, his ranking is good. Okay, we've got that down. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll let you know how it goes. That was kind of the idea of it.
And taking names, like just getting people.
Just getting scalps. That was the plan.
Yeah, and then I'm not sure how much you want to share, but the altitude factor and the training. Like, can you give us how you're sleeping in a tent and stuff? You were never doing that before, Dathan. And then what is a normal training week? I know there's no such thing as a normal training week, but like give us a sample of like a Monday through to Sunday with Dathan.
Yeah, sure. Altitude. I'm not in the tent. I'm only in the tent when I'm at sea level at certain times. So, for example, like I'm usually at altitude in Boulder. That's a good enough altitude for me. Like I don't need to, like I'm a high responder. So the altitude is fine. And it's low enough to the point where I can still run fast middle distance wise.
And do you know that through blood work that like you guys are keeping track of? Yeah.
Yeah. So we get our blood drawn to check how we're doing at altitude, but as well as to just check like I was very low on vitamin D. So I needed to take some vitamin D because it was very low and my iron was low. So I had to take stuff like that and obviously like put it into meal plans as well. And that was a good thing to check for athletes, for men and women on Dathan's side. You just wanted to make sure everyone's dealing with the altitude okay. If they're really tired, you'd be like, oh, maybe you need to get a blood draw. We need to check if your blood's okay. So he does that just to check it. And then when we're at altitude, we kind of, that's the situation. I'm not in the tent up there, but when I come down here for long periods of time, whether I'm in a training camp or stuff like that, we're trying to run faster stuff. We'll go in a tent and I'll be in the tent to sleep in. That's pretty much it. And the tent will be set at probably about 9,000, 10,000 feet. I don't know what that's like in meters, maybe 2,000 meters above sea level, just to keep that altitude buff going, but also be able to kind of train really hard, but able to keep that kind of altitude feeling. Because I know a lot of like Galen Rupp and Mo Farah, like particularly in their places that are at sea level, whether it's in Portland, or in London, they have altitude sealed rooms. I mean, we can't afford that, but they have that sort of stuff, and they'll train the treadmill, and like they've been able to do that to keeping at altitude for training or sleeping when they're kind of, in their residential areas. So that was kind of the plan for us. And the typical week for me, I mean, I'm probably at mileage, it's all in miles. So I apologize for Australian listeners because you can obviously convert it to Ks later on, but I do about 85 when I'm running a lot of mileage, about 85 to 90 miles a week. Monday will usually be a double. So it'll be like a 10-mile, 4-mile run. I'll do my drills and strides. Dathan's got like kind of this drill system that we do that takes about 5 to 10 minutes. I'm pretty useless at it. A lot of the other athletes are very good with their drills. I am pathetic. I'm getting better with it.
Is that the one that he's done a promo for Gatorade and it's on YouTube?
That's the drill.
That is a great video. We'll put that in the show notes. That's great.
If anybody needs to know our drills or our system, you can look it up on YouTube because Dathan does those drills for Gatorade. But we do those drills. Tuesday will usually be a workout in the morning, whether it's a fartlek, tempo run, track workout. They usually be on Tuesday. And then in the afternoon, we're doing another double, like a 4-mile double, just to get the legs going. And then Wednesday will be the same kind of double, 10 miles, 4 miles. We'll do some lifting. We're fortunate enough to have our own gym at the moment. So we do some band lifts, some weight lifts and stuff like that, just kind of functionality. Jason Ross, who is our also Cairo PT, does our lifts as well. He's based in Michigan. He was a former USA bobsledder. So he's been fantastic for that, just for strength-wise. That was another different change for me because I never did lifting in college. So it's been a good transition for me just to keep the body strong and healthy. That will be on Wednesday. Thursday, again, we do another double, probably 10 and 4, just to keep that going. Drills and strides usually afterwards. And then Friday, we'll do a workout. It depends on what we did on Tuesday, but Friday is usually a good workout. Saturday, easy 5 miles. Sunday, long run. So we usually do that for that general week. Sometimes it changes though. Sometimes Dathan will put our long run on Tuesday and do our workout on Sunday. So he likes to mix it up depending on weather is number one because of the snow, when he can shovel the track. We're not fortunate enough to use the indoor facilities at Colorado University. They keep it pretty strict, only for college athletes. So he'll have to shovel the track if it snows. But a lot of other coaches, pro coaches that are in the area, kind of have like a face group message. They're like, oh, the track's going to be, covered in snow. So, Dathan will shovel the track with Joe Bussard or Joan Hunter from Tin Man Elite. Like they'll all shovel the track together to make sure the athletes can compete on it, which is fantastic. It's great for the community to be able to kind of work together and keep the track clear so all athletes can use it.
How long would that take them? Like he's literally out there with a shovel, just
hours.
moving.
Yeah, hours.
There's that dedication we're talking about.
Yeah, and his wife Kaylin does it too, so she's dedicated as well. Love Kaylin. Dathan's wife gets a good shout out because she actually shovels it with him. She doesn't have to, but they'll shovel the track. So it depends on varying, like when we do workouts like that. And sometimes it mixes around, but it's generally that general typical week will be what we do when we're at training in Boulder. And sometimes we'll do 3 workouts. Sometimes we'll just do 2. But usually, it's very flexible. Dathan's training is very flexible depending on the weather. Like if the weather's really terrible, he's like, let's do this run today on the treadmill. We'll push the workout to this time. And then if we can't really get the workout in, he'll modify it, he'll simplify it. He'll make it so that it kind of works with our environment. So it's a very, very fluid schedule. And we use Final Surge, which is great. He's able to kind of jot it in and update it for all athletes, and not, all athletes are doing the same workouts. A lot of the girls do different stuff. We have steepler, like Leah Farland, who steeples. She does different stuff with hurdles. And we have Sage, who's an 800 girl who's not going to be doing 10K work with Alicia. So they kind of mix up the training and kind of synthesize it together to work. And it's been nice to have that kind of system. So it's very fluid, but that's kind of the typical week that we usually do when training in Boulder.
Your favourite and least favourite workouts? What do you like seeing? What do you hate seeing on Final Surge?
I don't like seeing if we do like 8 or 10 by mile workout, because I know Joe Klecker, who if anybody was interested, you can follow him on Strava. You can see what type of workouts he does. He's a madman. I know I'll get put in the ground for that.
Can you do those at threshold?
Yeah, threshold. They'll be like around 4:45 down, and Joe can do those for 10 by mile with little recovery at altitude. It's pretty insane what he can do. Just shows his endurance in the 10K event. Being a 27 low guy, probably under 27 at the present time, leading into US trials for 10K in May. And then Geordie just destroys me in fartleks because of that NAU background. If anybody's a fan of college system, you probably know about Mike Smith at NAU. Like, they got ridiculous fartlek workouts and they were at a higher altitude. So Geordie will kill me in fartleks as well. The only way I can get them is for like shorter track stuff, like 600s or 400s. I'm usually able to kind of get back at them for it. My favorite workout is this workout that Dathan has called 600 breakdowns. It's 600, 400, 300, 200. We'll do 3 or 4 sets of that. And we'll start the 600s at like 127, then go down from there. And the 400s get faster down to like from 56 down to 52, and 300s same, and 200s kind of almost down to 25, 24. And then we'll do a couple of sets of those at the altitude. And I love doing those because I just love ripping it. And I love being able to kind of push the boys. Because, I mean, Joe, for example, isn't necessarily known as a speed guy, but he'll close, he'll do a 600 in the last set and 124 at altitude, and like be able to like close down really well. And he'd be like, oh crap, I can do this. I can run fast. And it's like, it's good to be able to have that reassurance with them and to get them going. Like, you guys can run quick. Like, let's get it going. So that's my favorite workout that we do in Boulder. I think Morgan's filmed one of those workouts if you want to check it out. It's pretty fun.
It is, and you often go in the opposite direction. What's the story? Why the opposite direction when you do a track work?
Yeah, so Dathan likes to do that particularly because just with like when you're particularly with hip flexors and anything with your legs, like you're kind of leaning to one direction all the time. So he likes to mix it up, and particularly for longer stuff. When it comes to running fast, we'll always go the other direct, like the proper direction. But for tempos or for doing a lot of mile repeats, he'll definitely be like, all right, we've got the track to ourselves. We're very fortunate for that. We'll do 5 by mile, and we'll do it the opposite direction. And then we'll do the other 5 miles the right direction, just to kind of even it out. Because I think what he's noticed, particularly with his body, is that he's done a lot of track workouts the same direction. And his left side, particularly because you're turning left from the track, has been like a bit more beaten up, worn down than his right side. And we're not just the only group that does that. I know Joe Bassard, Team Boss, does it too, as Tim Men as well. So a lot of other groups are catching on to that because it's good for their athletes to be able to kind of switch directions, and it helps the body plyometrics as well. So Dathan thinks that kind of helps us just with general wear and tear. You want to even it out with your body. So that's kind of why we do that, yeah.
Yeah, right. Last kind of heavy question and topic before I get into a few quick fire questions. Tokyo Olympics must have been amazing. 11th, incredible final. We'd been pretty much in lockdown for like 2 years back here in Australia, and any sport that had been on TV was just something we were lapping up. And we saw Pete Bowl get the 4th, and then we kind of locked in to watch you and Stewie go around 15. And there was this genuine, I've probably been following the sport for 15, 17 years, and I can't remember an Olympics, maybe Mottram's kind of era, where we kind of watched potentially, we were sitting on our seats thinking that we could potentially see a main kind of major championship medal. And yeah, you guys both on the start line. It must have been weird with the empty crowds, but knowing the support you guys had, and then the way that race unfolded must have just been, I don't even know what word, incredible to be a part of.
Yeah, it was an absolute privilege. I roomed with Pete, and I just thought, I thought Pete could win. I definitely generally thought, but you do the best you can on the day, and sometimes it's not your day. But 4th in the world, like 4th in the Olympics, not just the world, but like it's every 4 years, and he was 4th. Incredible achievement, and Pete's such a great guy and a great he's hashtag good for the sport. Like, he's just so good for particularly not just like me as a track and field athlete, but also for like minorities and Sudanese refugees. Like his whole story is just fantastic, and it's great. And to be able to represent Australia and do that for a lot of people, it just puts a lot of pride into our country. And he did an amazing job. And Stewie as well. Like, Stewie had a lot of pressure on him going through the year, and the way he performed, the way he spoke, the way he went about it was just unbelievable. It was incredible. So being able to be toeing the line with him, having 2 Aussies in that final, we may have not had the races that we wanted, but we were able to kind of compete and learn a lot of experience. And as you know, Pete, myself, and Stewie, there's a lot more Olympics to come. So to be able to be there competing in a sport where pretty much every country in the world has a track and field team, to be able to be at that standard is fantastic. And for me, the race, like, I think the whole build up to make the team, it was such a fight to make that team, which was a necessary fight and a privileged fight. Once you get there, and every round to get through is just mentally, emotionally draining. I know Stewie felt it too, but you know, at the end of the day, that race was just crazy. It was an Olympic record type of race. It went out hard, and you had to be really on your on game to compete for a medal. And me and Stewie just weren't able to do it, but it was great to be a part of and a privilege. You know, I was 3:35 at my time for 11th. And I look back at it and it was like, you know, it was a tough race, and I obviously wanted more out of it. We both wanted a medal, but at the end of the day, like, I was there, I was able to compete, and we take a lot away from it leading into only 2 years away for Paris. So hopefully with more experience and more racing under our belts, we can start hitting that top category and bring back medals for Australia in the future.
Yeah, exciting times ahead. Yeah, you said it so well. Like, just that invaluable experience that you now have in your heads that you can use going forward. A few quick ones for you, mate, because I haven't got much more time with you. What pisses you off about the sport of athletics globally and or in Australia? What would you change?
Globally, I think there's just a lot of opportunity for investment and money in particular. I feel like there's a lot of athletes, not just in my events, but like in shot put. Like, there's like a guy, Tom Walsh, who's a New Zealander. Yeah. He has competed. I think he's medaled at every major championship, this bloke.
Com Games 2006, didn't he win? Like, we're talking years ago, yeah.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time. He was I think, 3-time world champ or 2-time world champ in the event. And he's like an absolute, just a class act to watch, an amazing bloke, even though he's a Kiwi. He's an amazing bloke, and he's unsponsored. And that's upsetting, because a guy like that, he's just such a good investment for any company that should be jumping onto that guy. He's like, he's got a great personality, you know, he's a thrower. Like, there's a lot of kids looking up to this guy, not just as a New Zealander in Australia or New Zealand, looking up to him in the world. You know, people looking up to this guy, and they think he's, you know, a great personality. Globally, I think the problem is the money. There is money there. There is money to give, not just to my events, but to all events. And I think that money needs to get there somehow, whether we get that investment from a Netflix show or from just getting people invested into it. Because in Europe in particular, I see so many people, so fans, and there's crowds, and there's money that's going to be there and put in. And it's being put back in with diamond leagues and stuff. But I know with investment and sponsorship, I hope companies are going to invest in a lot more people, not just on the running side, but in the field events too, to really give these people the support that they need. Because if you're funding great people and great athletes like that, they're going to be at more events. They're going to be doing more things, hopefully going to be more invested in producing amazing results. You know, some athletes might not have the time. They might think, oh, well, you know, I'm not getting paid very well. I'm trying to juggle financial stuff. I'm going to skip that event. Whereas that event, that could change a kid's perspective. They could see this guy and you could sign a little, you know, sign something for him and go, wow, this is awesome. And then that could be the next big sports star. You don't know who you're signing autographs for. So for me, that's a global problem. The Australian problem, I'd love to see Australian media, particularly like 7, 9, 10, like a lot of those things. When events happen, like the national championships, I want to see it more on screen. I want them to cover it more. Like, they cover the football every week, which they should, because it's a very popular event. But they cover the football, they cover, you know, the soccer. I want them to cover men and women's track and field like that, like just every week. Just cover it. It takes 5-10 seconds. Just cover what's happened. You cover Liz Clay breaking an Australian record, or cover Peter Ball breaking an Australian. Cover those people, because even that kind of that media, it's good. It's good for the sport, because it gives people that recognition. Because there could be people sitting on the couch and you're like, I wonder who that is. They'll look them up on Google. They'll be interested in, like, oh, they're competing next week in the Diamond League. You get another person, another fan watching it. So that would be my thing that I think the sport needs to. Well, hopefully the world can and Australia can kind of jump on that.
Especially post-Olympics, like we had general population people here knowing who you were, knowing who Pete Bowl was, knowing who Sinead Diver were. And now, you know, when you don't see them again for 4 years, it's hard to, keep them in your mind and keep that exposure there. And I always get annoyed, like when we'll have a big fun run over here, they might have it on the news, but it's in like the general section of the news. It's not even in the sports section, and you kind of you use the footage is someone dressed up as a giraffe running the City of Surf, and they don't even mention the man and woman who actually won it in a half decent time, or they might quickly, and then doesn't even actually make the official sports section of the news. Quick couple more for you here. My co-host Brad wants to know, when will you get the American accent like Morgan's got? How much longer?
I'm trying to avoid it. Mate. Poor Morgan. He sounds like an American. He's like, everyone's like, oh man, he sounds so American. And people in America do know he's not from America. Like, they can kind of tell that he's not from America. But mate, I've been trying to avoid it as long as possible. But the problem is, the more time that I spend over there, the more time I have to kind of like say certain words. I caught myself saying tomato the other day, and I almost slapped myself in the mirror. It's tomato, mate. I was like, oh. Yeah, I've been trying to keep it away, but like if you guys catch me, just 100% make fun of me. Just constantly make fun of me if I get the American accent, because that is something you should make fun of me for.
Yeah, for sure. Which PB is the best? Which one are you most proud of?
Honestly, the 13:09 5K.
Okay, really?
Yeah, I was, because I think the training leading up to that, a lot of strength training, a lot of mileage, and there's a lot of overlap from the Olympics as well. I think I've just become a different athlete in that section, but a 13:09 indoor for me shows me that I have hopefully a future in that event too. I mean, I could be running the 5K later on down this season, which would be awesome, but I'm very happy with that PR, because before that I couldn't really finish a 5K well, and I felt like with that one it was a good one. So that's my most proud one. I hope 1500 will hopefully be that one. I'm hoping to get closer to 330 and hopefully under. But yeah, definitely a 5K at the moment, 5K indoor.
Can you ever see yourself coming home in the next 5-10 years? Or is the career has to be based in America for you to be successful?
Currently, with my sponsor and the opportunities I have, I will stay in the States, just to be able to access to Europe too. Like the poor athletes in Australia, like we're just so far away. Like the travel to Europe is such a punish. Like, I mean, a lot of those athletes just take like 24-hour flights, 36-hour flights to get to their event, and they're like completely zombied. Whereas in America, it's an easy access to get to Europe, so that's another benefit for it. And my group's there, and my support system is currently there too. But I will end up back in Australia. I know I will. And hopefully, if my career progresses and I get the opportunity to come in Australia and run, I'd love to be a part of that, because I think that'd be awesome.
And the final one, my other co-host, Moose, he asked me, I don't know what this means, but he just says, ask him about the Tesla story. And we can cut it if it's shit, because I don't even know if it's a good question.
The Tesla story, I guess it's just me buying a Tesla.
Okay.
It's maybe there's another story that I don't know about, but Joe Klecker, who's my teammate, he has a Tesla, and I was interested in it because in Colorado, unfortunately not in Sydney, but in Colorado and Texas, there's great tax benefits from having an electric car, as well as a lot of charging opportunities to have it. And I thought it was a good idea because I didn't have to pay for gas, and it was a nice car to kind of zip around and use as a business expense to go to training. You know, my teammates didn't have to pay for petrol or anything like that. And now it seems like a good investment, because petrol prices are through the roof, not just in Australia, but in the States as well. But yeah, we drive that around, and we're known as you know, when you see people in certain cars and you're like, oh, that guy's probably a dickhead. That's the Tesla. So when people see me there, I'm definitely getting looks. People's like, oh, look at that little pansy over there. Yeah, little rich boy. But that's pretty much that story. But yeah, no, we both have those cars, so we kind of park them next to each other. We have the OAC sticker and the Coffee Club sticker on the car, so people know who it is. And yeah, it's pretty funny. I don't know, people make fun of me for it, but I'm like, oh, you know, it's good that you make fun of me of something. I need to be made fun of sometimes.
Saving the environment, looking after the environment. Yeah. Thanks, mate. Your weekly coffee club, if listeners haven't heard that before, they can definitely tune into that. I think you guys, is it Friday you release every week?
Friday and Saturday, yeah, Morgan will release some stuff. And tune in if you want to have a listen. We just chat about general stuff of the sport. We kind of bring to light everything that's going on, and hopefully give a better awareness of just everyone in it. So
massive thanks for your time. I know it's a busy time, and time that you've taken away from your family that you don't get to see that often. So I know the Inside Running podcast listeners would have enjoyed that chat. And then, thanks again, Ollie.
Oh, appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
The team at Brisbane Marathon Festival are giving away 2 free entries to any distance at their running festival to listeners of the Inside Running podcast. Entering is easy. Check out our Instagram feed for details on how to enter.
Just show love to everyone you meet. Doesn't matter if it don't come back. Undercover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking. Under